All right, it is 6 p.m. on Tuesday, January 21st, 2025, and I'm going to call the City of Iowa City meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Alter. Here. Burgess. Here. Harmson.
Here.
Moe.
Here.
Saleh. Here. Teague.
Here. All right, want to welcome everyone to your City Hall, and to those joining us virtually, welcome to you as well. I hope you're staying warm as can be on this very cold day. We're going to jump right into our agenda, which is our consent agenda, items 2 through 6. Could I get a motion to approve, please?
So moved, Mo.
Second, Saleh.
All right. And anyone from the public like to address the topics on our consent agenda?
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, I'm John Balmer, 10 Princeton Court. I'd like to address the charter review as the chair. I just wanted to.
All right, and that's going to be,
The consent agenda.
Except that there's
There is one on the consent agenda.
from the consent agenda.
okay. Yep.
What I would like to do is ask if there's any questions that anybody might have. We met with you informally and had a good meeting, made the presentation, and felt that there was agreement with what we had presented, but we know that you have to make the final approval with 3 readings of the ordinance. So I just wanted to give you that opportunity. I wasn't sure on the agenda. I see we are on the agenda later, but being on the consent calendar, I was just going to offer the opportunity for anybody that might have any questions. Again, thank you for choosing us. Vice Chair Molly Casera and I are here this evening, and our committee, as you may know, met 16 times, had 2 public hearings, had a good, robust discussion, and some very good input. So if there's any other questions, I'd be happy to answer those right now.
And at this time, we'll just take your comments, and if we'll be having this on our agenda, I assume the council can address anything at that time. But thank
I
you.
understood you are. I just wasn't sure if at this point if it was appropriate that I appear and ask if there were any other questions. So, okay. Thank you.
Yes. Anyone else want to address anything on our consent agenda? Seeing no one in person or online, please raise your hand virtually if you're online. I don't see anyone with their hand raised online either. Council discussion. Roll call, please.
Alter.
Yes.
Burgess.
Yes.
Harmson.
Yes.
Mo.
Yes.
Saleh.
Yes.
Teague.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. We're moving on to item number 7, which is community comment. This is an opportunity for folks to address an item that is not on our agenda. And we ask that you come forth, give your name and the city you're from. There is a sign-in at this desk. There's also stickers in the back that you can place in the basket there. You'll be allowed up to 3 minutes. If I can see the hands of anyone that want to speak during the public comment. Okay. Yep, you'll be allowed 3 minutes. And I welcome you at this time. Please give your name and the city you're from.
Well, Mayor and Council, my name is Linda Zelenskis. I'm from Iowa City, and I'm a retired nurse of 43 years. And I want to talk to you about the people who do not have homes, that are homeless in Iowa City. And I wasn't going to talk about AshtonHouse or the other place, but items have come up in those 2 places. I have bought tents up down to underwear. And anyway, I have delivered them to the garage and AshtonHouse. Then I pick up litter and I clean the porta potty seat with an antiseptic cloth and also underneath the seat. And I went just the other day to clean it, and there was a large piece of poop on the seat. And not too long ago, I went to do this. Yeah, okay. I would put antibacterial soap in there, but usually there is no soap for them to wash their hands. I called you, the mayor, about this. Then I learned about the overflow shelter. I went there today because I wanted to check the bathroom, and it's getting to be smelly. I do not know who gave it to the city to use, but I would not wish anyone that I knew to stay there. There's one shower, and we're all in this nice warm room. We don't need a hat, we don't need a coat, but Okay, and just wait. Okay, again, I checked the bathroom. There were new doors on the shower and the 2 bathrooms, and there was just a very little toilet paper. There was no hand sanitizer, and okay. And also the shower was dirty. It was really dirty, and I took the hose to, clean the shower, and it was so, there was hardly any pressure to the shower. And, there's so many people that are staying there. There are like 55 people that are staying there. And anyway, let me see. Okay. Oh, I've called, okay, let me just finish this up. The other thing is, I'm not going to quite, can I have a little bit more time? The other thing is there was a window open at Shelter House, and all the people who came in from the outdoors had their hats and coats on. And then yesterday I went, and also the temperature of the inside shelter was 65 degrees. And so anyway, I just am hoping that we could call Kurt Ferentz, the sororities, the fraternities, people who do a feature on homelessness and channels.
Thank you.
So.
Thank you.
Anyway,
Yep.
we've got to think about these
Did
people.
you, I'm going to have you write your name there on the sign-in list, or?
I did.
Oh, you did, thank you.
Okay.
Yep. Please, whoever wants to speak next, please come forth. Welcome, please state your name and city you're from.
Thank you. My name is Ray Nepple. Wife Marlene and I live at 2438 Walden Court. Hopefully the material I provided you give you an overview of the issues that needed immediate attention. We moved here in August of 2016. Surface water along with poor drainage between the condos has allowed the street to settle in front of our 13 condo owners. The 13-foot long sidewalk is the evidence our condo is settled. The sidewalk has nosedived 2 inches to the building. Sad when it's no longer safe for a 78-year-old citizen to get his mail. 25 foot of cement cracks has appeared this summer in the driveway of our duplex condo next door. The water shutoffs are part of that driveway. Our service line runs under the patio to the back of the door. The city should have some interest in preserving water supply to the 26 condos. The north occupant of that condo has surface water running from the condo diagonally to the front, creating a ravine and out under the street. The sinkhole out back of our condo is adjacent to Mid-American Gas Century, Medicom Ion, who provide underground service. The common area is indeed of a French drain. It's time for the city to take action and protect their investments. Radon is prevalent at Walnut Court and the second leading cause of lung cancer. Iowa ranks second in cancer. Is my health being jeopardized by the poor drainage of the surface water? Mid-American Basement and VJ Engineering has submitted their proposals to our current and past board, but they have refused to take any action on the matter. To install a French drain is going to take the cooperation of Walnut Court, the city, the stormwater management, the retention people, VJ Engineering, as well as Walden Woods Towns. That's not much to ask in paying $78,000 of property taxes yearly. The neighbors in our duplex are concerned. We have 26 condos. 20 to 30 years ago, the prairie blended with the South Ravine. Today, all the trees are gone. It's a mess. The property owners to the west have had to do a very poor drainage along with infested mosquito waters after seasonal rain started. Housing development to the west of Weber has increased dramatically the last 4 years. How many people drive by this eyesore every day? We have a new calendar. It's time to start fresh with new ideas and solutions. It's your responsibility to throw the politics of this problem out the door and start working for the citizens and property owners of Iowa City. I visited City Hall many times over the last years. I acquired a stack of 18 business cards from various city officials and departments. The first 2 visits were very informative. That changed as I made more visits. Department heads no longer in, not available. I sensed a little hostile environment. Sad, but I had to face reality. That is our government at work. On 2 occasions, I reached out to Animal Control Office to enforce the leash dog law. The dogs were the property of county owners and run at large. Within 90 minutes, a little paddy wagon entered Walden Court on private property, drove up the street, a private street, to the appropriate condo and entered the driveway and resolved the issue with the owners. That's pretty good service. In closing, I have a very interesting quote on top of my desk under the glass, and it reads, "If you're not taking care of where you live, You are not a part of the solution. You are a part of the problem.
Thank you. Thank you. Did you sign in, sir?
Yes, I did.
Thank you. All right. Great. All right. Well, welcome, Counselor Taylor, former counselor here. Former, yes. Welcome. Please state your name and city you're from.
Good evening. My name is Pauline Taylor. I live in this wonderful city of Iowa City. I'm here tonight to stand with and support Mr. Nepple. I met him a few years ago when I was on the council. He lives in District A, the district I represented at that time. He contacted me about some issues he was having where he was living, which he's talked about those. He wondered if the city council could help him resolve any of these issues. He lives in a development that is governed by a homeowners association, alias HOA. My understanding of HOAs is that they typically have rules in place to protect property from neglect, and that those rules must comply with state and local laws and ordinances. Mr. Nepple took his concerns to the HOA, but they would not acknowledge most of these concerns. A few of the issues were taken care of, but some major ones have not, and they've become even worse over the past few years. And they will continue to compound to get even worse, like a sore or a blister that is not taken care of and continues to fester. It has come to the point that some of, as he mentioned, the westerly neighborhoods, these issues are beginning to affect some of those neighborhoods as well. Over the past few years, many of the new housing developments have been condos and townhomes. They have tended to form HOAs. If this trend continues, the city needs to put some strict guidelines in place for oversight of these HOAs. They should be held accountable. My hope is that the City Council and city staff can follow up on these concerns in order to finally resolve them for Mr. Nepple and his neighbors. Please, please show these residents that Iowa City really is the fair, just, and sustainable community that it strives for in its strategic plan. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address an item that's not on our agenda during this time? Seeing no one, we're going to move on to planning and zoning matters. We're going to start with 8A, rezoning ACT. Ordinance conditionally rezoning approximately 48.6 acres of property located north of North Scott Boulevard and east of North Dodge Street from Office Research Park Zone and Interim Development Research Park Zone to Mixed-Use Zone. This is the second consideration. Can I get a motion, please? Although there has been a motion to waive for expedited action.
Yeah, I move that the rule requiring that the ordinance must be considered and voted on for final passage at 2 meetings prior to the meeting in which it is to be finally passed be suspended, that the second consideration and vote be waived, and that the ordinance be voted on for final passage at this time.
Second.
Moved by Mo, seconded by Salah. And we're going to open this up to the public for discussion. Anyone from the public want to talk on this topic? If you're online, please raise your virtual hand. Seeing no one in person or online, council discussion.
Very exciting.
Yep. All right, and I wanted to acknowledge that Councilor Alter is recusing herself from this item, and that's why she left. All right, roll call, please.
Burgess.
Yes.
Harmson.
Yes.
Mo.
Yes.
Salah.
Yes.
Teague.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Could I get a motion to pass and adopt, please?
Mo.
Second, Sade.
Roll call, please.
Harmson.
Yes.
Mo.
Yes.
Salah.
Yes.
Teague.
Yes,
Burgess.
Yes.
motion passes 5-0. Could I get a motion to accept correspondence?
So moved, Burgess.
Second, Harmson.
Roll call, please.
Mo.
Yes.
Salah.
Yes.
Teague.
Yes,
Alter. Burgess.
Yes.
Harmson.
Yes.
motion passes 5-0 with one recusal. All right. We did get some late handouts that I wanted to do a motion to accept correspondence.
So moved.
Work session.
Yeah, this was from the pictures that were taken
From public comment.
Public
from
comment.
public comment. Yeah. So Burgess moved. Could I get-
Second, Saleh.
Seconded by Saleh. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. We're going to move on to 8B, rezoning Cardinal Heights. Ordinance conditionally rezoning approximately 27.68 acres of property located east of Camp Cardinal Boulevard and west of Camp Cardinal Road from low-density multifamily residential zone with a planned development overlay to low-density multifamily residential zone with a planned development overlay. This is second consideration. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mo, seconded by Alter. And anyone from the public would like to address this topic? If you're online, please raise your virtual hand. Yes, please. Yep. Yes. Yep. Please state your name and city you're from. Welcome.
My name is Lisa Mosier. This is my first city council meeting. I live in Cardinal Ridge, and I am wondering, the first plan that this development they had set up is to have this 16-unit further away from the tree line, and then, I mean, what I liked is that they were going to have all these single, or these high-end duplexes that were going to go down in those little pockets. I don't really know because you can't walk the land. But now it seems that that 16-unit is going to be coming closer to where the trees are, I think. I'm not really sure because I haven't seen the picture for a long time. But I'm wondering why they changed that, and I haven't been able to find out the answer. I also know that they were going to have 3, I thought it was 3. Is anybody from Western Homes here today?
Think so.
Mayor, I think this was
I-
pertaining to the next agenda item, not this one.
Okay.
Very close geographically, but
But
I think
they're changing how the zoning is going to work.
it's a different project. It's
Yeah.
the next item on the agenda.
I'll
It's
should I
trying to
just wait and be
clarify.
patient, and can I see the picture is somehow? Okay. But anyway, I am curious about why the change, and
Yeah.
why aren't they putting it
So
where
I
it was?
think what we'll do is we'll allow you to come back up.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. Anyone else like to address this topic on the Cardinal Heights rezoning? Seeing no one, in person or online. Council discussion?
Did staff not recommend expedited action on this?
No.
Correct. It wasn't requested by the applicant.
Okay.
Roll call, please.
Stella?
Yes.
Teague?
Yes?
Alter?
Yes.
Burgess?
Yes.
Harmson?
Yes.
Mo?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. 8C, rezoning Western Homes. Ordinance conditionally rezoning approximately 31.65 acres of property located east of Camp Cardinal Road and north of Gathering Place Lane for medium-density, single-family residential with a planned overlay development to with a planned development overlay. And this is the second consideration, and expedited action has been requested.
I move that the rule requiring that ordinances must be considered and voted on for passage at 2 meetings prior to the meeting at which it is to be finally passed be suspended, that the second consideration and vote be waived, and that the ordinance be voted on for final passage at this time.
Second.
Moved by Mo, seconded by Salah. And we're going to have public comment at this time, so we welcome you to come back and speak on this item. If you're wanting to come back, now is the opportunity for anyone from the public to come and speak on this item. And just so that people know that this is an opportunity for them to speak to the council will not engage in conversation, but this is an opportunity to speak to us.
I'm Lisa Mosier from Iowa City. I'd like to know whether Western Homes can say why they're changing what their original plan was. Because I haven't really been able to find that.
Thank you. Anyone else like to address this topic? Welcome. Please state
Hello.
your name and city you're from.
Steve Long, Iowa City, with Salida Partners, representing Western Home Communities. At the last meeting, we gave a explanation, and I'm sorry you weren't at that meeting. What happened, this was approved, I believe, I should have had the civil engineers here as well, about 2 years ago. And this cul-de-sac had, I believe, 6 homes, and it was determined that we were only able to do 5 because of topography. And then talking with interested people interested in the project, there's been a big demand. Wellness became a big portion, that's something that was sought after, and we needed more room for like a wellness center and activity and space. And so we worked with the architect and the engineer to create some wellness space, and also to get a lower price point, have some congregate living areas as well. So there's 16 units, 8 per floor, being proposed.
So this is a part of the development team, and typically I would have waited until we close public
sorry.
comment. But what I'll do, because council may want to engage in some questions, I'll ask that we'll be able to do that during our deliberations.
I'll be right here.
All right, thanks. Anyone else from the public like to address this topic? Hearing from no one else, council discussion.
Yeah, I really would like just to ask you, Steve, have you, I remember like most of the project, they do like good neighborhood meeting. Have you done that with the residents?
Yes, we did have a good neighbor meeting.
Okay, yeah, I just want to make sure the neighbor are aware, because especially we are expediting this, and if there is people have like questions, I don't think it's a good idea to expedite it. So maybe now one person came, and I don't know how, if you did this good meeting so the people know about it and to come and talk. I just like things, we don't need to expedite it. So because maybe other people will come and say something.
Just as a follow-up, because I'm looking in the P&Z notes, that the Good Neighbor meeting, as it's detailed here, was held in 2022. Since there had been a change, has there been a Good Neighbor meeting?
Yes, we had, I don't remember, do you remember the date? It was
Just
in
as an
December.
FYI, yeah, it was November 6,
Yes.
2024, according to the
Okay.
agenda
Just-
packet.
Okay,
Just as an
thank you.
FYI, I just happened to
Okay,
see
no,
that.
I was probably somewhere that I hadn't seen. Thank you.
And if this is not being like, if we can just make it normal 3 vote, is this going to affect the developer or anything? Like, are you really wanting to do this as soon as possible? So I can, just seeing like people coming out right now to talk about this, I don't know why they did not attend the good meeting, like good neighbor meeting.
Yeah, everyone was invited as per the ordinance.
Yeah, I
Within 500
understand.
feet. And, when's the next meeting?
It's going to be February
4th.
4th.
February 4th, the
Okay.
early February. Is that good?
That won't be a problem. I mean, it's pretty cold out to be putting foundations in.
Okay. I think if we can, as a council, to wait, just like give it normal 3 vote, will be great.
Anything else for Steve at this time by anyone?
Oh, thank you, Steve.
Yep. So, City Attorney, if we reverse this motion, is there a supermajority that needs to do that or no?
I'm sorry, did you say to reverse the motion?
To,
The expedited.
I mean, I guess if it's the consensus of council to not expedite, I would just suggest that you vote no on the motion to waive second consideration and then just move forward with a normal second reading.
Got it.
Okay. I really just ask the council kindly to wait for 3 reading, and if the developer doesn't like accept that, so we can, there is no problem.
Any other discussion on this item? All right. So this is a motion to waive second consideration. Roll call, please.
Teague,
No?
Alter,
No.
Burgess,
No.
Harmson,
No.
Mo,
No.
Salah.
No.
Motion fails 0 to 6. So we will go back, and then could I get a motion to
Second
give
consideration.
second consideration,
Mo,
please?
yes.
Saleh, move second.
Yeah, moved by Mo, seconded by Saleh. And roll call, please. Any more discussion at this time? No? Roll call, please.
Alter,
Yes.
Burgess,
Yes.
Harmson,
Yes.
Mo,
Yes.
Salah,
Yes.
Teague.
Yes, motion passes 6 to 0. And could I get a motion to accept correspondence?
So moved. Alter.
Second, Burgess.
Roll call, please.
Is this a motion to
Yeah.
correspond? Just voice vote.
Yeah,
would be
it's
fine.
a voice vote. Yes. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes 6 to 0. All right. We're on to regular formal agenda, items 9. 9A is the AshtonHouse and Project Green Gardens REAP grant project. Resolution approving project manual and estimate of cost for the construction of the AshtonHouse and Project Green Gardens REAP grant project, establishing amount of bid security to accompany each bid, directing city clerk to post notice to bidders, and fixing time and place for receipt of bids. I'm going to open the public hearing, and welcome.
Good evening. Julie Seidel Johnson, Director of Parks and Recreation. I'm excited to be here to talk to you about this project. This is doing work on the grounds around the Ashton House, so not the Ashton House itself. It's a joint project with Project Green. It was their brainchild to do this, and they received a $200,000 REAP grant to fund it. So the background is located next to the Ned Ashton House off Park Road in the Iowa River. And the idea is to increase access and give Project Green a little help. There'll be some extra water service to the areas for their gardening and grounds maintenance that they do that. And then increase amenities for the users of that park area. So it includes additional trail spurs and additional access from the east side of the property, bike rack, bike fix-it station, benches, a bird blind, which is the first in our park system, which I'm really excited about, and then a fire ring in the area. So a lot of fun stuff happening in that park area. It's along the trail, gets a lot of public use, and this just adds more to that as a destination. It's estimated cost of $170,000. As I said, the grant was for $200,000, so design fees are the rest of that amount. We'll be letting the bids on February 11th with award hopefully on February 18th, start of the project in the spring of this year and completion by the fall. Happy to answer any questions.
What exactly? Tell me a little bit more about the bird blind.
Yeah, so it's kind of an artistic thing that they're doing. It is a wall that it'll be put up near the river. It'll have little sections, open sections in it, so you'll sit behind the blind, so the birds don't see you as a human, is my understanding, but you can see out and watch the birds from there. So
Nice. Yeah.
Nice. All right, thank you. Anyone from the public like to address this topic? If you're online, please raise your virtual hand. Seeing no one in person or online, I'm going to close the public hearing. Could I get a motion to approve, please?
So moved. Mo.
Second, Burgess.
All right, council discussion.
I love that park. I've been to a wedding in that outdoor space and many community events in the thing. I think it's wonderful our city has that. It's a wonderful amenity. So
Roll call, please.
Burgess,
Yes.
Yes.
Mo,
yes.
Salah,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Alter.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. 9B, 2024 High Service Pump VFD Replacement Project. Resolution approving project manual and estimate of costs for the construction of the High Service Pump Variable Frequency Drive Replacements Project. Establishing amount of bid security to accompany each bid. Directing city clerk to post notice to bidders and fixing time and place for receipt of bids. I'm going to open the public hearing and welcome.
Hi, John with Iowa City Water. So this is the acronym project, High Service Pump Variable Frequency Drive Replacement. On the screen there, that is our high service room. These are the high service pumps. These large cabinets next to them are variable frequency drives. So they can speed up or slow down the pumps. The importance of these pumps is hard to overstate. Every drinking fountain, toilet flush, shower, bottle of shampoo from P&G gets its pressure from these pumps either directly or indirectly. We've managed to limp these drives along for its 20-year design life, going so far as to source some parts from eBay. So this will replace the two 500 horsepower and two 300 horsepower high service pump drives. The room itself is also can generate a lot of heat because of all this electricity that goes through it, so we also have to improve the HVAC. And then our supervisory control and data acquisition, lovingly known as SCADA, also needs to be updated once this drive is in place. We hope to start this spring and be complete by next spring. As noted on there, the VFD supply chain can get pretty hairy because there's a lot of parts in here that come from overseas, and so it takes time to build these, source these, get everything here, and install them. And we have to do it in sequence so we don't lose pressure in the system. So I'll be on site during that, and Aline will be the project manager, and if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Will the public experience any change in water pressure while you guys are doing the work on this?
Sort of as part of that, I was like, how, maybe it's super in the weeds, but how do you go about replacing those while still making sure that Iowa City has service?
Like playing a shell game.
Okay.
One at a time. There's restrictions in the contract to make sure that it's sequenced in such a way where we don't lose our high service pumps altogether.
Would I be, go ahead, please.
I was just going to say, I liked very much that you actually leveled the answer in a way that I could understand. And go ahead, Councilor Harmsen, but I do have one more question after that.
Safe to assume that, kind of addressing exactly what, there's some redundancy there. Like, they're probably
Correct.
not all four having to run quite often.
We typically run two of the small ones at a time to try to achieve as much energy efficiency as possible, which is the main benefit of those VFDs, is we can bring them up and down to limit the amount of energy we're putting into the water. Because as those pumps are running, they're effectively lifting all that water 250 feet in the air. And so we lift 6 million gallons of water 250 feet in the air every day. And then occasionally just have to dump it back into a tank and then lift it again.
Oh, okay.
I had a question that had to do with the funding.
And
or
I
the
just,
money.
I just had a question about durability, like how
Okay.
long this investment is for
Go ahead.
us. So I think they're probably related questions. So what's your, no?
Yeah, so design life for most of these high-end electronics is about 20 years. But we try to get as much as we can out of them. These, in keeping with the way the world works, are Robicon, but Robicon was bought by Siemens. Siemens obsoleted the product. So when we need technical support, we find that one guy that still works for Siemens that used to work for Robicon that can tell us what we need to do.
So my question is, and I think I heard you, before I ask the question, am I remembering correctly, you said these parts would be coming from overseas?
The drives themselves are from all different walks, but because they have those microcontrollers in them, that's typically what slows things down.
Okay. I was wondering in terms of the estimated cost and the potential of tariffs, if you feel reasonable that this is the amount, or is there some, I know that everything with inflation right now has skyrocketed, but I just wondered if, as a council, do we need to start being concerned when we get projects that are estimated, if, as far as the accuracy of the estimates in light of potential tariffs?
Well, we can only make estimates based on what we know.
Okay, that's,
So,
yeah, that makes a lot of sense, but.
But we already know the time it takes to get these is extended just because they're active front VFDs, which helps with reactive load on the utility side and what's required, so it takes more time for these. They're not off-the-shelf type
Right.
VFDs.
No more questions for you. Thank you. Anyone from the public like to address this topic? If you're online, please raise your virtual hand. Seeing no one in person or online, I'm going to close the public hearing. Could I get a motion to approve, please?
Move, Sauter.
Second, Mo.
Council discussion.
Things we have very good quality of weather, and we need to do what we need to do.
Yeah.
Yes, well said.
Money well spent.
Yeah.
Roll call, please.
Harmson?
Yes.
Mo?
Yes.
Salah?
Yes.
Teague?
Yes.
Alter?
Yes.
Burgess?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. 9D North Gilbert Street Reconstruction Project. Resolution approving project manual and estimate of the cost for the construction of,
9C.
I am sorry. We're going to go back to 9C. So 9C Senior Center Exterior Door and Window Replacement Project. Resolution approving project manual and estimate of cost for the construction of the Iowa City Senior Center Exterior Door and Window Replacement Project. Establishing amount of bid security to accompany each bid, directing the city clerk to post notice to bidders, and fixing time and place for receipt of bids. I'm going to open the public hearing, and welcome.
Julie Seidel Johnson, Director of Parks and Recreation, here with my facilities hat on for this one. This starts the project to replace the windows and the doors at the Senior Center. It's on the Historic Registry, so National Register of Historic Places. So the project repairs and refurbishes it in the historic sense. But the other neat thing about this project is our climate action goals. It is going to make the building much more energy efficient. I'll show you in a minute pictures of the elevations of the building, but 16% of the exterior of this building is windows. So by replacing windows that are from 1979 to updated windows, you'll have some energy savings there, along with doors and that. So the project repair and refurbish the existing historic wood elements at the monumental openings. That's the arched openings over the windows and the doors that you see around the buildings. Repair and refurbish the existing historic painted wood surrounds, remove and replace existing aluminum frayed windows, media blast and refurbish historic exterior wall scones adjacent to the west entry, remove and replace existing exterior storefronts on the west side, exterior door hardware, access controls, remove and replace the roof hatch on the roof, another energy saving measure. Provide and install new interior manual solar roller shades on the windows, and then alternates will include painted wood in lieu of aluminum doors at the west entrance. And actually, talking earlier today with the engineer in charge of the project, the last three items will probably be actually alternates on the bids. So with the roller shades on the inside of the building and that roof hatch will be bid as alternates. The estimated cost, $1.1 million. Schedule is to put it out to bid on March 4th with award hopefully on March 11th and completion by October 31st. I'm not planning an overall closure of the building during this project, but there will be limited closures at various times. Obviously, if they're working on the doors and they can't get in and out of the doors, they'll have a few days closed here and there, but overall is to continue to have the center operate throughout. And just the elevations that show you just truly the amount of windows and doors on the building. And it's all the casing, the windows and the doors, woodwork around the doors. Happy to answer any questions.
Can you talk about, Historic Preservation gave it a certificate of appropriateness. Can you speak to any of their comments? Were they fully in support of this or have any conditions that they were concerned about?
I'm actually not aware, but I believe so.
Okay.
I don't know there are any issues with what was planned for it.
But it's repair of anything that's historic and replacement of the 70s non-historic is the general ethos.
Funding sources for this, can you tell us about that? Is it all general fund, any?
Yeah, this is mostly borrowing,
Borrowing.
general obligation bonds.
So you said even with the window component, they'll have to block off the interior of the windows, but they'll still be able to use the space when the windows are pulled out. Do you have a sense of like, are all the windows coming out all at once, or is it a?
It looks like it will be in zones, and so there will be limited closures and moving of activities within the building during those times.
Okay.
But my sense is there'll be some function within the building throughout most of the project.
I also gather they're excited to get new windows because theirs are currently leaky, so.
The reason I asked the funding question is because I understood that there could be some funds available for historic properties, maybe at the state level, and I don't know if we even attempted to apply for those or if we're eligible because we're a governmental body.
Are you referring to tax credits?
Not tax credits. I understood that, and it could be tax credits for residents, where it would be if you have a historic property, then it could be tax credits that they get, which, of course, that wouldn't apply to us. So,
Outside of the tax credits, I'm not aware of anything, but.
Okay. All right. Thank
Is
you.
it only tax credit? I remember we said like if somebody have a historic building or house, they can apply for grant to get fixed. Like we said that during historic preservation committee. I don't know. That's what you're referring to, Mayor?
Yes.
Yeah.
We have a local program geared towards much smaller residential projects. It's about $40,000 per year. So the awards are, I think, about $5,000 per award. Nothing to accommodate a project of this scale.
Yeah, and also this is local, like from our money,
Right.
same thing. So I'm talking like some like state maybe or something like that. But yeah, thank you.
No other questions for you. Thanks. Anyone from the public like to address this topic? If you're online, please raise your virtual hand. If you're in person and you want to address this, if you can raise your hand at this time. Seeing no one in person or online, I'm going to close the public hearing. Can I get a motion to approve, please?
So moved, Mo.
Second, Alter.
All right, moved by Mo, seconded by Alter. Council discussion. It is a beautiful building.
It
I was
is.
just going to say, I'm like, it's all those windows that actually make it that way. Having taught at EPB for many years, I can say the type of window matters. So
Yes.
this is exciting.
Yeah. Roll call, please.
Mo?
Yes.
Sella?
Yes.
Teague?
Yes.
Alter?
Yes.
Burgess?
Yes.
Harmson?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. Now we are on to item number 9D. Thanks for catching that. North Gilbert Street Reconstruction Project. Resolution approving project manual and estimate of costs for the construction of the North Gilbert Street Reconstruction Project. Establishing amount of bid security to accompany each bid. Directing city clerk to post notice to bidders and fixing time and place for receipt of bids. I'm going to open the public hearing and welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Scott Silvers, Assistant City Engineer. So this project is on North Gilbert Street between Brown Street and Kimball Street. The project generally includes street and sidewalk reconstruction from Brown Street to Kimball Street. It also includes water main, storm sewer, sanitary sewer improvements, along with new retaining walls and driveway approaches. I guess before I move on to the next slide, I guess I wanted to mention that because of the grade of the street, the sidewalks will be steeper than on some of our other streets. With that being said, the sidewalk as designed is still ADA compliant. Sidewalks that are constructed in public right-of-way are allowed to follow the grade of the street per current design standards. So just wanted to make sure I noted that. As far as the strategic plan goes, the impact area that this project touches on is mobility. And the strategies that were addressed during project development were to design and maintain complete streets that are comfortable and safe for all users, and grow and prioritize bike and pedestrian accommodations. And this was done by the street pavement improvements that we're planning, the addition of sidewalk on both sides of the street that are ADA compliant, and then improve storm sewer and street drainage at the intersection of Kimball Road. The estimated construction cost for the project is $2 million. And the schedule is we're issuing bid documents tomorrow. The bid opening will be on February 11th. Plan to award at your February 18th council meeting with the construction timeline of construction starting this spring and then finishing up this fall. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
What arrangements or detours or what have you are, like, how are residents going to be able to sort of navigate getting to their homes during this time?
Yep, that's a great question. Because of the narrow width of the right-of-way and kind of the restricted area, the street will be closed in sections. And in those sections, we are still planning to maintain local traffic to each of the driveways.
Thanks for talking about the steep grade. I know we had constituents calling because they're concerned about somebody, taking that steep sidewalk, and what does that mean for them if somebody falls? But I think we understand we need sidewalks. Do we ever in Iowa City put signage up for, like, this is really steep, or is that just a direction we don't go typically?
Good question. We don't typically, I'm not aware of us putting up signs regarding steepness of sidewalks.
Okay. And we don't, we don't close things for wintertime or anything.
Nope.
It's not a typical thing. Okay.
Not for sidewalks that are in public right-of-way.
I appreciate you talking to the steepness because it is an incredibly steep hill, but I'm sure the people who are walking up it on the street now will be very glad to have a sidewalk.
Sure.
Can you talk about the Brown Street component of that?
Sure.
Is the intention that it looks at the end of the project like it's the same historic Brown Street look, the clay brick pavers, or is it replaced with something different?
Correct. Yep. So we'll be that will be completely reconstructed, but there'll be a PCC or a concrete base underneath it, and then we'll top it off with the existing brick that are there. So it'll look just like it does today.
Wonderful. Good. Thanks.
Hearing no other questions, thank you. Anyone from the public like to address this topic? If you're online, please raise your virtual hand. If you're in this room, please raise your actual hand. Seeing no one. All right, I'm going to close the public hearing. Can I get a motion to approve, please?
So moved. Burgess.
Second, Saleh.
Council discussion. Roll call, please.
Sella?
Yes.
Teague?
Yes.
Alter?
Yes.
Burgess?
Yes.
Harmson?
Yes.
Mo?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. We are on to item 9E, right? 2025 Parking Garages Maintenance and Repair Project. Resolution approving project manual and estimate of cost for the construction of the 2025 Parking Garages Maintenance and Repair Project, establishing amount of bid security to accompany each bid, directing city clerk to post notice to bidders, and fixing time and place for receipt of bids. I'm going to open the public hearing and welcome. Yes.
Joe Walter, Senior Engineer with the Engineering Division. So this is our annual parking project. It's part of basically our way of keeping our 6 parking ramps up to speed as far as normal repair and maintenance. This particular project is going to focus mainly on the Dubuque Street ramp, although we're going to have some components at Tower and Chauncey. The main work items that we have, anchor bolt replacement, concrete crack repairs, some concrete grinding, epoxy with membrane, expansion joint header repairs, expansion joint replacement, expansion joint sealant replacement. We have some horizontal repairs, new membrane installation, painting, penetrating sealer installation, recoating of existing membrane, removal of some old membrane. We have slab sealant replacement, storm water drain covers that are being replaced, and vertical overhead spall repairs to be replaced. The ones I highlighted in bold are the vast majority of the cost. And just to give you an idea, so penetrating sealer, 30,700 square foot of basically the basement and half of the first level. That is $30,000, whereas 35,000 square feet of new membrane costs $237,000. So basically the same amount of area. So if we can get ahead of these things, which is what we've been trying to do in recent years, penetrating sealer, 1/10 of the cost of new membrane. Once you go to the membrane, then you're stuck with that. So that's why we really try to minimize that as much as we can. Slab sealant replacement, we have $75,000 of that in this contract. Expansion joint replacement, we have $41,000 for that. Just to give you kind of some ideas what those costs are. Overall cost, $572,000. Our schedule for this, we are intending to open bids at the end of February, award in March, start construction in May. That's after the university school year gets out, and try to get that done basically right around the beginning of the university calendar for back in the fall.
How many lost parking spots do you anticipate?
We have restrictions on the parking spaces. It's typically per ramp, it's in around 60 spaces. There are certain things that we have to do to work around that. Like that penetrating sealer, for instance, we'll end up losing probably a bit more spaces than Dubuque Street to do that. When we do the membrane, we try to alternate traffic, so we'll do like 2/3 and 1/3 type of thing. So we'll have people driving on the 1/3 and removing and replacing on the 2/3, and then we'll flop that over to try to minimize the amount of spaces.
Joe, you mentioned there's some improvements on or maintenance on the Chauncey Swan ramp as well. Do you expect any impacts on the farmers market with this happening over the summer?
No, it's primarily what we're doing is sealant around the expansion joints on the towers, the stair towers. So it really should take very minimal spots, very small mobilization area and staging area for that. And but we've been experiencing some water in those stair towers, and so we're going to redo those joints, especially up on the upper levels, and that should take care of some of those issues that we've been seeing with that, as well as the walkway that goes between the Chauncey Tower and the Chauncey ramp. So not doing work down on the lower levels where the farmers market is.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone from the public would like to address this topic? If you're online, please raise your virtual hand. If you're in this room, please raise your actual hand. Seeing no one in person or online, I'm going to close the public hearing. Could I get a motion to approve, please?
So moved. Mo?
Second. Go for it. Second alter.
All right. Council discussion. Way to battle it out. Roll call, please.
Teague?
Yes.
Alter?
Yes.
Burgess?
Yes.
Harmson?
Yes.
Mo?
Yes.
Salah?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. 9F, Charter Amendments, Ordinance amending the Iowa City Charter as recommended by the Charter Review Commission. This is the first consideration. And I'm going to, could I get a motion to give first consideration?
So moved. Mo?
Second, Harmson.
All right. And then I'm going to welcome our City Attorney, Eric, for starters.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So as council will recall, we had a work session at our last meeting to discuss all the good work that the Charter Review Commission had done, including the report that they prepared and approved and a presentation by the chair and vice chair, both of whom are also present here this evening. Council then gave direction to me to go ahead and put forth the ordinance to adopt all of the changes that have been proposed by the Iowa City Charter Commission. That is what is before you today, and as I mentioned, both the chair and vice chair are here if you have any additional questions for the recommendations that they are making.
Thank you. And I see the chair here. Yes,
Yes, it's nice to be up here again and have enjoyed the meeting. It's been a while since I've been here. So again, I want to thank City Attorney Gores, City Clerk Grace. They were outstanding in their assistance with the Charter Review Commission, and certainly couldn't have done it without their very fine assistance. And on a personal note, this is 50-year anniversary for me. 1975 was the anniversary of the city charter, and I happened to be fortunate to be one of the 7 people that was elected, the first 7-person council. So this has got special meaning for me, and I really appreciate the opportunity to have been the chair, been on the commission and be the chair. So this has been very special. Our commission was very, very diverse, and we had robust discussions. As you may be aware, there were several areas that we had some disagreements, but in the final product came together and unanimously approved it to be sent to you. So with that, if there's any further questions, as many people know, it's a 10-year process, every 10 years, and it's healthy to go through it and to review it, and we've been well served by this charter, I think, anyway. As one who was formerly in your seats and now is out here, and I followed it very closely. I can't tell you how many times I've read and reread that charter, but it's pretty basic and pretty simple. Even I can understand it. So, you have any additional questions?
I just want to say thank you again very much for your work. As we're going through a special election right now, I have people who are reaching out about why is that number for the primary established? I don't remember that being a hot discussion topic during your Charter Commission review, but did that come up at all, or was it a major consideration?
You mean as far as the number that it takes to
trigger a primary?
Trigger a primary?
Was that a big
Not
discussion
really.
point? It was just
No.
it wasn't something to concern about?
I don't think it was. Was it?
Yeah,
City Attorney Gores?
No, I don't. To be clear, you're talking about the number of candidates that are have declared or have turned in paperwork in order to have a primary. Is that right, Councilor Mo?
Exactly, yeah.
I don't recall that was a topic that was discussed by the Charter
In fact, just the opposite. We were concerned that there were many of those races that were going uncontested. And it's nice to have now some contested races. And so I can remember when I first ran, I did a lot of explaining to people about the system we have. It's a kind of a hybrid system, as you know, with the districts and at large. The districts, you run from the district, and if there is a primary, you're voted on just by those residents who reside there, but the rest of the community then gets to vote on you in the general election, and something I still favor to this day. So that was an area of discussion.
I understand your concern. I really seem like 3 is really low number to trigger primary. So it is, it's good to see people come up and try to be involved. But I just thought 3 is really concerning, 3 people, and after that for primary, because we need, especially for district the district for one person. I don't know if this was the general election, seemed good, but
I think it's very good and very healthy, frankly.
Yeah, it
that
is.
We're going to have a competitive race, and you've gotten the attention of the community, I think, and that's good.
It's good, but we're gonna spend money. Yeah.
Remind me, so I guess this is a question, but looking for confirmation. One of the recommendations that came from the commission was, in fact, that continued education and engagement with the community, right? To
Absolutely.
make sure that people are aware of how the system works and what they're voting for, whether, that it's based on the recommendations that it is for city council and then the mayoral position is elected internally or what have you. But that this is all something that basically every single one of us should be working on to make sure that people are aware, right?
I think
that's the recommendation.
Absolutely, and I think we would encourage this to be a county-wide issue and get more buy-in from everybody, and include the League of Women Voters, the Iowa City Partnership, people that we can reach out to, and hello. Anyway, yes, very good point, Counselor. I think that's something, and certainly I would be like to be involved in that, and I'm certain Vice Chair Casera would too. I think we have a buy-in now, and I still feel strongly that we need to get more people involved in the process.
Mm-hmm.
Any more questions? Because we should be asking questions. We'll be deliberating later.
Yeah, we should.
I do have one question just to follow up on that thread, because in the charter itself, we're not speaking to how exactly education about the charter could happen.
Right.
Is that something that you foresee as far as what umbrella that would be under, what organization might take the lead? We've always had challenges of getting people to come together. So
Yes.
where is that housed?
Well, when this charter was first proposed 50 years ago, the League of Women Voters was extremely involved. In fact, they had several people that were on the initial charter commission. It would certainly behoove us to reach out to them and the Iowa City partnership that we have also, because I think they're another vehicle and conduit for that, and certainly anybody else. But yeah, I think that would. But I think I don't know what the league does anymore. Frankly, I haven't had much involvement with them, but I think they would be a vehicle that we could certainly utilize.
Thank you.
Okay. Again, thank you very much. We very much appreciate it. I personally do too. Thank you.
Well, thanks to you, and thanks to you as well, Commissioner, for coming tonight. I really appreciate all the work of the commissioners. At this point, we're going to ask for public discussion on this item. Anyone in person want to speak to this? If you are, please raise your hand. If you're online and want to speak to this, please raise your virtual hand. Seeing no one in person or online. All right. Council discussion.
I just want to say, really thank you. This is historic, every 10 years we have this, and I think the amount of the meeting that you guys done is amazing, and involving the public, I think, and since there is no change made, which is great, that means the system is working and the people happy about it. And yeah, we appreciate your work. Thank you very much. I will be voting yes for this.
Ditto.
All right. Any other comments? All right. Roll call, please.
Alter?
Yes.
Burgess?
Yes.
Harmson?
Yes.
Mo?
Yes.
Sella?
Yes.
Teague?
Yes, motion passes 6-0. All right. We are moving on to item number 9G, and this is approval of the 2026 through 2030 Consolidated Plan. Resolution adopting Iowa City's 2026 through 2030 Consolidated Plan, authorizing the city managers to submit said plan, technical corrections, and all necessary certifications to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, and designating the city manager as the authorized chief executive officer for the Consolidated Plan. Mayor Pro Tem is recusing herself from this item. And can I get a motion to approve, please?
So moved. Mo?
Second, Alter.
All right. Great. And then welcome.
Hey, Erica Kubley with Neighborhood Services. So I'm going to start with a little bit about the Consolidated Plan. It's a document required by HUD that the city completes once every 5 years. Locally, years ago, we named the plan City Steps, so this next plan will be City Steps 2030. The plan is designed to help assess local affordable housing and community development needs and market conditions, and will allow us to make place-based investment decisions for our federal entitlement funding. Iowa City is what HUD calls an entitlement community, which means that we receive CDBG and home funds annually, given that we comply with all of HUD's regulations, including this plan. Some of the benefits of a consolidated plan are that it provides the process provides a framework for community-wide dialogue to identify housing and community development priorities that can be met with our federal funding from HUD. The plan enables efficient allocation of federal funds by aligning multiple grant programs under a single plan. In addition to our CDBG and home funding, the plan incorporates some of our short-term funding sources like CDBG CV and home ARP. The plan also ensures accountability with built-in methods for monitoring progress and evaluating the effectiveness of our programs. Some of the key components of the plan include a community profile, market analysis, strategic objectives, and an action plan. We have not completed the first year action plan yet because we don't have our FY26 funding amounts from HUD. I expect to be back to council with the action plan around May of this year. The planning process for city steps includes an analysis of market conditions, demographics, and community needs through surveys, focus groups, and data collection. We define clear, measurable objectives, including goals for housing affordability, homelessness prevention, and other community development efforts. It proposes specific strategies and actions to achieve the set goals, including potential partnerships with local organizations and private sector entities. And the plan also emphasizes the importance of engaging with the community throughout the process through public meetings, outreach efforts, and feedback mechanisms. So there are a number of documents that are either part of or related to the consolidated plan. Every year, staff complete 2 reports for each of the 5 years. The annual action plan is completed prior to the beginning of the fiscal year and outlines specific activities that we will invest funds in for that year. And then what we call the CAPER is completed immediately after the fiscal year and reports out on our spending and accomplishments. Both of these are available to the public on the city's website. Some other related documents embedded within the consolidated plan, the analysis of impediments to fair housing and the citizen participation plan. We're in the process of updating both of those this spring. And then NDS is also working on a regional housing needs assessment, which isn't really part of the consolidated plan process, but it's there's some overlap there. So the city hired Mullen & Lonergan to complete our consolidated plan through an RFP process. Council heard from Bill and the rest of the team back in November. Mullen & Lonergan is highly qualified to help staff complete the plan and ensure we're hitting all of the compliance points so that we can continue to receive our HUD funding. We're working mostly remotely with our consultants, but they did visit Iowa City this past summer to help facilitate our public input sessions. So as part of the consolidated plan effort, the city and Mullen & Lonergan conducted extensive outreach. This took place primarily last summer and into the fall. We held 3 advertised in-person public meetings at different locations across the city. Evening meetings were held at the Pheasant Ridge and Broadway neighborhood centers, as well as a meeting at St. Patrick's Church hosted by Escucha-Mi-Voz. 6 in-person stakeholder sessions were held here at City Hall in July and August. Sessions were well attended and provided insights into the current conditions and needs of the city. The topics for those sessions are listed here. An additional virtual public meeting was held for anyone who couldn't attend the in-person meetings or just had more to contribute. We also had a housing survey conducted in multiple languages for the public to complete. We had a total of 336 survey responses, and then we had a shelter survey for residents at AshtonHouse and DVIP. Oh, and this, the graphic is a flyer for our stakeholder sessions, and those are translated into various languages. And then the photos in this slide, the top one is the session at Broadway Neighborhood Center, the public meeting, and then the one below is at the public meeting at St. Patrick's Church. So some of the themes from the public meeting include the need for expanded affordable housing opportunities. We heard a lot about rent assistance, more vouchers, solutions for chronic homelessness, including expanded permanent supportive housing, and a general increased need for housing to serve those below 30% of the area median income. We heard about the need for solutions that address barriers to access public services and affordable housing, transportation. We heard about bus service to mobile home parks, access to the DMV in Coralville, and transit for seniors. We heard about barriers for immigrants, specifically lack of documentation and credit history, language barriers, and lack of insurance for health care. And then we heard about fair housing quite a bit, including the acceptance of housing choice vouchers by landlords, predatory practices in mobile home parks, and higher security deposits and application fees for renters. Another fee was the need for continuing and expanded public services, increased mental health needs, additional services in low-income neighborhoods such as health clinics, and again, additional needs for supportive services and permanent supportive housing. And lastly, the need for workforce development and improved access to opportunities, vocational training opportunities, and the need for childcare that is both affordable and pays a living wage. So in addition to helping us determine our community needs, we asked our consultant to review our federal grant administration process in Iowa City. There have been a lot of changes with HUD in the past 5 years. Our previous city steps was rolled out right before COVID. So we've had a lot of new grants and regulations. For staff, it's been really challenging to keep up with the compliance, and a portion of that burden gets shared with our partner agencies as subrecipients. Some of the general observations from our consultant of Iowa City, we're considered a small entitlement community. We receive about $1.1 million in CDBG and home. That's for FY25. CDBG funding has been level over time. However, our home funding was cut by about $130,000 last year. With our funding, we currently allow any eligible activity under CDBG and home, which is uncommon for small entitlement communities because we have limited staff capacity. They also noted that federal regulations triggered by certain projects can increase project costs. An example of this would be Davis-Bacon wage rate regulations. HUD continues to add complex compliance regulations, but the technical assistance offered is very limited. Given this, our current staff levels do not allow us to specialize in every type of eligible activity. So the recommendation was that we prioritize our federal resources on the highest priority needs and focus strategic investments and funding decisions based on those identified needs, which is what we try to do with this plan. And for this, we're really looking at our federal funds. We fortunately have local resources available for affordable housing and public services. We don't specify funding for local programs in this plan, but we do refer back to the city steps priorities quite a bit throughout the work that we do. So just to give you a comparison, I pulled information for 4 communities that have the most comparable level of CDBG funding to Iowa City. And each of those communities are focusing funding on limited activities. All cities use CDBG for administrative costs as well as public services. We kind of max those out when we can. From there, each community focuses on funding 1 to 3 additional activities. Iowa City, we're currently administering 7 other activities, which isn't recommended as a best practice for a community at our funding level and staffing level. So now I'm going to shift into our recommended investment strategies for our federal funding, starting with home. Staff recommend focusing home funds on 2 new set-asides. A set-aside means that we would budget for that activity each year rather than apply competitively for funding. First, we'd like to do tenant-based rent assistance, or TBRA. Rent assistance has been identified by the community as a high need. We know the housing choice voucher wait list is currently closed, and there's more demand for assistance than can be provided with the limited vouchers that we have. The Iowa City Housing Authority currently has TBRA funding for a new program that we anticipate continuing. The set-aside will create a predictable budget and allow us to operate the program continually, which is important when we're providing rent assistance. Second, we recommend a set-aside for down payment assistance. This is another area consistently identified by the community as a high need. When we've surveyed community members for this plan and for ARPA, down payment assistance was one of the top 3 prioritized housing needs for low-income households. We currently operate a down payment assistance program through partnerships with Hills Bank, Green State, Iowa Valley Habitat for Humanity, and we also offer down payment through our South District program. So each of these projects that we're already serving will fit into this category. Again, if we create an annual set-aside, that will allow us to operate the program continually based on demand. Our next recommendation is to direct applicants for new construction of affordable housing to apply for funding through the Housing Trust Fund of Johnson County. This is a change from how we've been operating. The city allocated about $700,000 to the trust fund in FY25 for affordable housing. That includes our tax credit set-aside. Using federal funds for new construction adds substantial regulatory compliance to a project. Section 3, Davis-Bacon, and the Build America, Buy America regulations get triggered by new construction projects, even if we're just funding a couple units. These regulations are an administrative burden, but they also increase project costs. So we propose directing the new construction projects to the local funding opportunities. Also note that the Housing Trust Fund's most recent funding round had $2.9 million available, and our home allocation is very small at $384,000. Another benefit of the trust fund is they offer quarterly funding rounds, and projects can begin shortly after the award, whereas with federal funding, we're kind of at the mercy of HUD, and we have a lot of delays throughout the program year. And finally, our recommendation for home is to limit our competitive funding to our CHODO activities. CHODO stands for Community Housing Development Organization. These are agencies whose mission is affordable housing, so they have a higher level of experience and expertise. We're currently working with the Housing Fellowship as our CHODO. the home program requires we set aside funding for CHOTO, so we would continue this and work with the Housing Fellowship directly on projects. For CDBG, the city has a longstanding owner-occupied housing rehab program that we plan to continue using CDBG funds. Preservation of our existing housing stock is a high community priority. CDBG funds allow us to serve a broader range of projects, including mobile homes, mobile home repairs, which can't be served under the home program. We also recommend establishing a rental rehab set-aside under CDBG. This would be for city-owned, non-public housing rentals. The city plans to expand its affordable housing portfolio, and so we think it's important to have these resources available to preserve those units. For our competitive funding round in CDBG, projects would be limited to public facilities and rental acquisition only. Examples of the public facility projects would be improvements that we've recently done, improvements at neighborhood centers and at shelter houses, emergency shelter. These two activities are programs that we commonly fund now, and we anticipate the need for funding to continue in the next 5 years. And then lastly, we can use up to 15% of our CDBG allocation on public service activities, which we will continue to do. We pair this with local funds under aid to agencies. And so this is just a table of the different programs and changes are identified. Changes for City Steps 2030 are identified in the green font. As staff, we feel these changes will help us prioritize our federal resources more strategically based on the public input and community need. So Aid to Agencies is our human services grant program for local nonprofits. We are currently funding legacy agencies on a 2-year cycle and non-legacy agencies annually, both through competitive funding rounds. Our current budget is about $770,000. Most of that comes from the general fund. About 84% of the total budget is general fund. The remainder comes from CDBG public service dollars. This year we funded 19 legacy agencies and 6 non-legacy agencies. That's for FY25. So the Aid to Agencies program has evolved over time. We've been making incremental policy changes since 2018. However, we still have some ongoing program challenges. First, there's simply just more demand for funds and services than resources available. This is despite the city's increase in funding over time. The table on this slide shows the increases to this program each year, which come entirely from the general fund. Because we have a strong network of service providers in Iowa City, and because Aid to Agency provides flexible funding with limited strings attached, the funding process tends to be highly competitive. Back in City Steps 2025, we attempted to categorize agencies to level the playing field between more established agencies and newer agencies. We also shifted to a 2-year funding cycle for legacy agencies to ease the burden of the annual application process. Over time, we've added more legacy agencies to the eligibility pool, effectively watering down the funds. We get ongoing requests for agencies to be eligible for funding as a legacy agency. So our application review process right now for legacy agencies is very complex. This year's packet is over 500 pages. The photo on the slide is our HCDC chair's binder for this year. It's like over 6 inches thick. It's very thick. Not everyone prints them, but he chose to this year. So we generally feel this process is burdensome and can limit engagement from our commissioners. Our goal for the Aid to Agency program moving forward is to establish specific public service funding priorities and direct Iowa City funding to meet those priorities. So we're looking at what core services we need in our community and how city funds can make an impact. We've had substantial public input for this planning process and generally over the last few years with ARPA and COVID funding. We also have longstanding partnerships with agencies who are able to provide data and show us how their work is meeting the community need. So this allows us to make informed decisions by focusing on impact, outcomes, and performance. The recommended funding priorities that are outlined in City Steps are on this slide. They include homeless and shelter services. This would include domestic violence shelters. Food insecurity would include food or meal distribution and food pantries. Healthcare includes mental health and behavioral health. Child care and youth services. Housing stability services could be eviction prevention, basic needs for housing, and removing barriers to affordable housing, and then transportation. There are also populations in our community, that face higher barriers to accessing services that we want to prioritize. These include, but are not limited to, immigrants and refugees, elderly and disabled populations, and victims of domestic violence. Another staff recommendation is to simplify the application and review process for aid to agencies. As I alluded to, it's a long, challenging process to review these applications, and we generally feel that the time commitment for the application process is unreasonable for our volunteer commissioners. We've also observed that the amount of work through this process is becoming a barrier to participation in HCDC. So now I have some more specific recommendations for aid to agency process that are included in the plan. In order to streamline our process for funding human service agencies, we recommend establishing a direct funding process for agencies who meet city priorities and other key factors. Agencies would receive up to 5-year funding, ideally in alignment with our 5-year plan. These agencies would not participate in the competitive review process. However, we would continue to use their joint funding application for the data and reporting purposes. Funding for these agencies would adjust based on the annual aid to agency budget, as it does now. City Steps 2030 does not provide budget recommendations. Those decisions are made by City Council annually after the budget is approved. So any agency funded through the direct process would meet the criteria for CDBG public service funding. So these agencies are operating at a level that meets federal standards. 6 agencies were recommended for direct funding based on the following criteria. The agency provides a direct service that meets a City Steps 2030 priority. The agency has been operating for no less than 15 years in its current capacity. The agency's headquarters is in Iowa City. The agency must have existing full-time dedicated professional financial staff. The agency has a single audit annually or an equivalent process that demonstrates financial oversight. The agency demonstrates sound operational practice. This includes factors that are regulated through 2 CFR 200, such as internal controls and conflicts of interest. And then performance. Agencies must provide timely submissions of reports and consistently meet performance measures year after year. We also want to see that they're demonstrating an increase in the service provided over time. So based on this criteria that was reviewed by City Council and HCDC at the joint meeting in November, the following agencies are recommended by staff to receive direct funding: Community, DVIP, Free Medical Clinic, Neighborhood Centers of Johnson County, Shelter House, and United Action for Youth. Based on this criteria that was reviewed by City Council and HCDC at the joint meeting in November, I read that. At our November meeting, the criteria for years in existence was a topic of discussion. I wanted to note that if that criteria changed or was removed, we would have the same staff recommendation. Many of the small agencies that we work with or that are funded through aid agency wouldn't meet the financial capacity, quality of operations, and performance criteria.
Erica, can you repeat that last sentence that you just said?
Sure. Some of the, for smaller agencies, it's difficult to meet the criteria of the financial capacity, the quality of operations, and performance.
Oh, okay.
So what I'm trying to say is that the years of existence wasn't a deciding factor in our recommendation. For current legacy agencies who were not selected for direct funding, the competitive process will not change substantially. All our agencies would continue to apply through the United Way joint funding process every 2 years. A key difference with the new plan is that we no longer have legacy and non-legacy agencies. We found that the current process of defining legacy agencies and adding new agencies into this category is not sustainable. We're going back to our intentions with this funding, and we want to focus on priorities and how we can make an impact. We are also proposing to increase the minimum award for the competitive funding from $15,000 to $20,000 to, again, focus on the impact we can provide and not spreading funds too thin. As I mentioned, staff feel that the HCDC application review process is not practical for all of our commissioners. For competitive funding, moving forward, staff would score the applications and make a funding recommendation to HCDC. HCDC can revise the staff recommendation as they see fit. We will no longer request individual commissioner scores, but all the applications will still be available for review. And so I want to make a couple clarifications based on public comments we received and kind of misinformation that is circulating. The consolidated plan doesn't provide budget recommendations for aid to agencies. City Council would continue to approve the annual allocations. We do this now, even with our 2-year funding cycle. We bring it to you after the budget is approved, all the recommendations, and they get approved then. We've heard some incorrect information about how much of the budget will go to direct funded agencies versus the competitive funding round, so I wanted to address that. On this side, it shows the 6 agencies selected for direct funding, and they currently receive about 53% of the total aid to agency budget. There's an asterisk by DVIP as they have taken over the rape victim advocacy services and are receiving those funds currently as well. It's expected that the direct funding awards will be based on the amounts received through the FY 26-27 competitive funding round that is currently underway. And similar to now, we would likely prorate the amount based on the approved program budget in subsequent years. All other current legacy agencies would be eligible for the same or higher level of funding than they are currently receiving. As a reminder, we're recommending to increase the minimum award to $20,000, and so the downside of that would be if with level funding, we would not be able, we would fund fewer agencies. Current non-legacy agencies will now be eligible for higher levels of funding through the competitive process, as well as a 2-year funding cycle. The process for them would, of course, be more competitive. However, the 6 of the highest scoring agencies would not be scored in this process if they're in the direct funding group. And again, City Council has final approval on budgets and allocations. This level of detail of the budget is not included in city steps. We just wanted to clarify some of those comments. So I want to run through our outreach for this plan and opportunities for public input. We created a web page for information on the plan initially and for public input opportunities. City Communications has helped us prepare a flyer for our public meetings and stakeholder sessions that were translated into multiple languages. We posted these at the Senior Center, on city buses, dropped them off at neighborhood centers, Center for Worker Justice, Community Pepperwood Pantry, Housing Fellowship, I See Compassion, and Iowa Legal Aid. We held 3 public meetings with help from neighborhood centers and Escuchame Vos. Over 200 people participated in these meetings. We held 6 stakeholder sessions and 1 virtual meeting. Our consultant facilitated focus groups and interviews with other community stakeholders like the Home Builders Association and landlords. Staff did a prioritization exercise at some of the public meetings as well as at the Senior Center during a food distribution event. A housing needs survey was distributed as well as a shelter resident survey. Information was provided on recommendations at the joint session between HCDC and City Council on November 4th. That meeting was recorded and is available online. All of the proposed changes in the plan, except for the names of the direct funded agencies, were made public with that presentation. Our official 30-day public comment period began on December 20th. We did a city press release and notified all the agencies currently receiving funding by email. The city's done several social media posts soliciting input on this plan. We typically would take this plan to HCDC, but we were unable to achieve quorum last week. We did reach out to solicit comments from commissioners individually, and then today is our official public meeting for this plan. So staff is requesting approval of the City Steps plan at today's meeting. Our timeline for aid to agency after this plan, next week we are having our HCDC review of the FY 26-27 legacy applications. Those have already been submitted with the joint funding process. We have not held our non-legacy annual process yet, and we would start that if we were to get this plan approved. We wanted to use the new priorities for that funding process, so we held off. It'll probably be delayed like a month. And then I expect to be back in front of council for review and approval of the FY26 legacy and non-legacy funding recommendations around May. New agreements would be entered into after July 1st, and then we would phase in the new process from there. For CDBG and Home, we are requesting approval of this plan today so that we can proceed with preparing for our FY26 activities. We typically start work in December for the upcoming fiscal year. We've delayed our competitive funding process until this plan is approved due to the recommended changes, but expect to move forward with that process upon approval. Once HUD releases our funding allocation for FY26, we will prepare our annual action plan. We typically bring that to council in April or May. It depends when the federal government releases our funding allocations. We expect that to be delayed a little bit this year, so it'll probably be May. And then the actual plan, the action plan for this year gets approved as an amendment to this City Steps plan, just because it's the first plan of the 5 years. Any delays in our approval process will likely result in kind of a domino effect to delays to our projects that we're trying to administer after July 1st. And if approved, any new set-asides and priorities outlined in City Steps would be effective with the fiscal year of FY26 in July. And that's all I have, if you have any questions.
Erica, really quick, since we've got that last slide here on the timeline, when would, so are the 6 that have been pulled out for non-competitive awards, are they being considered at the January 27th, or have they already been pulled out?
They have not been pulled out.
Okay, so
They'll
it's
be
moving forward
They're going through the
a year.
competitive process. That would look like is that we would maybe, when we do the agreements, if this gets approved, when we do the agreements, we would set them up as direct funding.
Okay, and so in the same way, just based on the fact of like there needs to be some lead time for this to be set up. Right now, we're still talking legacy versus non-legacy, correct?
Right.
I've been trying to piece through your presentation, which, thank you, it clarifies quite a bit for me. And hopefully for some folks who have emailed, rightfully and understandably concerned and engaged, and I applaud that, actually. But my question is, because I know this is question time, is it possible that the name legacy and non-legacy have perhaps created confusion as you're proposing to switch out of it into? I had heard that, or read, that people were still referring to those 6 non-competitive agencies as essentially they were legacy and therefore getting perhaps the lion's share of money. Does that seem like a way to understand how that logic was going? Because that is what I've read, and it clearly is not the case based on the breakout of how you've shown the funding has been historically,
Right. Yeah.
as well as what it would be looking like going forward.
Yeah, I'm not sure where that came about, but we kind of, when I was looking at, we bumped up some of the legacies, and that the non-legacies are joining the legacy. So I looked at that
Right.
differently.
But they're going to, just those 2 nomenclatures are going away.
Right. We'd like to. We've received feedback that people want that naming to go away. So.
I think that was a couple of slides ago. If you could go back a couple of slides, I think maybe that would be helpful. One forward, one more. That one, I think, is the one. Is that what you were talking about,
Yeah.
Councilor Alter? Thank you. I had some questions too, but if somebody else wanted to go first, I don't want to. Just one of the things you had mentioned with this proposal was the considerations for our volunteers and commissioners on HCDC. Would this proposal go forward, with the exception of the 6 agencies? So currently we have some people on a yearly cycle, some on a 2-year cycle. Would this, you'd have the 6 agencies, they'd be on 5, but then everybody else would be on a 2. Do you anticipate that means like every other year this would be the task, or would they sort of be split? Yeah, they would have to have every other year, right? So they'd have like a year of doing this, that'd be the big chunk, and then a year they would be doing other things.
Right, so we'll have to do non-legacy for another year after this year, just because of our funding cycle.
Oh, sure.
But we've been partnering with the joint funding group, the other funders in the area, and everyone is on a 2-year cycle. So we're trying to align our funding process for everyone to be on a 2-year cycle. And so, as you were mentioning, that would help out the commission to not have to go through the 8-agency funding process each year. And then having the 6 applications not part of the competitive funding, we just think it will be less of a burden.
While also still really impacting the community, right?
Erica, I understand the balance that I think staff is trying to reach in terms of the administrative burden for the grant recipients, right? Like if these are federal funds, then there's a lot of strings attached to those dollars, and having a certain level of administrative infrastructure in place at the organization is kind of how we're trying to align that. My primary concern was of the criteria for those that would be considered for the direct funding. Was that 15 years? And you mentioned that the recommendation would remain the same if that sort of durational threshold was removed. Just a procedural question, if that was removed or changed to a different number of years, how would that impact the approval process of this plan?
Council could make that recommendation as they approve the plan.
Okay.
So we could incorporate any changes into the plan.
Okay.
And move forward.
I'm sorry. You were going to say more.
No, I guess just kind of along those lines of the administrative burden of receiving the federal funds, and I believe you said of the aid to agencies money, the majority of it is from general fund, and therefore wouldn't necessarily have the same strings attached. Is that an accurate way to kind of describe
Correct.
that?
Yeah.
But internally, we administer them the same way. Is that right?
Somewhat. So some agencies do receive the federal portion, usually 2 or 3 each year get CDBG funding through aid to agencies, and they have additional reporting. I think what we are getting at is that the agencies selected have a higher level of capacity on the financial side. They're kind of more used to submitting the performance reports and that kind of thing, which would make them eligible for these funds. So not all 6 will receive CDBG. We don't have enough CDBG funding, but one of the 6 agencies or more will receive CDBG.
Okay, and then for the non-direct funded organizations, so the entire rest of the pool would be local funds?
Right.
Okay, and so are the grant agreements for those grant recipients, I guess, less burdensome than those for the CDBG money?
I would say the reporting is less burdensome. The grant agreements would not include all the federal language, so they're going to be simpler in that sense.
Okay.
And then all these agencies are reporting through the joint EC impact, which is what the joint funding process uses. So they're submitting the reports for all the different funders quarterly, and then we review those and disperse the next payment if everything looks good.
And I really appreciate the idea of some longer-term, consistent, direct funding. And I just, is there a, sorry, this is question time, so let me try and limit my comments to that. So let me just ask this, Erica, if I understood you correctly, the idea behind the direct funding is to give those organizations who we've identified as matching the top priorities and facilitating the greatest impact, so they don't have to have the same, that's just money that they can spend operationally. Is that a fair way to say it, or how? Okay. And so if we wanted to have more like a contract for service, the example that I always think of is what we've done with Shelter House's emergency winter shelter, where there's specific criteria for what we are receiving or what we are expecting in exchange for those dollars. On the direct funding, can you just kind of frame up, what does that look like as far as what the city's receiving in those agreements?
Sure. So when agencies apply, they're indicating what kind of performance, what metrics they're going to perform over the year, and we use those and we put them in the agreement. And so we're kind of expecting that they're meeting those. And then when we get our quarterly reports, we're checking to see their progress.
Okay, and that was where you referenced that we need to see improvement in those?
Yeah, that comment was really related to these agencies are kind of expanding their services over time. They're looking at the data, seeing what needs to be met in the community, and they're demonstrating that they're kind of expanding what they're doing.
Okay, thank you.
I think a related question. Can you elaborate a little bit more on the quarterly reports and the compliance specifically geared at those, I'm going to call them the big 6 that are listed up there? What's the process for making sure that they're following the things that they promised to do, as well as, I guess, the demographic information that they would be collecting and sending back to HCDC and eventually City Council to see who they're serving?
So typically, agencies set their own metrics, and they tell us what they're going to do and why that's important in the community. We use that information into the agreements. And so aid to agencies funding, it's intended to be flexible operational funding, so it's not a reimbursement like a lot of our grant funds. So as long as they're making progress on those metrics and doing what they said they would do, we take the next quarterly. We'll approve the next quarterly payment.
I hop in because it fits kind of nicely in. Looking forward to this moving to direct funding for those 6, is there contingency? I mean, that's a 5-year, agreement. Say an executive director that leaves and problems ensue, and it's a drastic, what kind of contingency measures are there if in fact they're not performing up to what they say they will or what the expectation is? 5 years is a long time, so what?
Right. So since we're doing quarterly payments, the easiest thing would be to withhold payments until they reach what they're doing. There's language in all of our agreements that identify what steps we would take. So I feel that we're covered in that sense.
Just go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I was going to say, one of the biggest concerns that we've been hearing is the award amounts so there was 22 organizations that are now down to 6, that was in that legacy agency, and they're going to be coupled with, everyone else in this grant process. What you showed us for the fiscal year 2025 award was the $404,000 that will go to the 6 agencies, and then $365,000 for other agencies. But this is not just the 16. This would actually be open to more than just the 16, correct?
Right. Yeah, so it will be competitive, and if council approves and we move the minimum funding to $20,000, we feel that makes a bigger impact, but it's also going to eliminate, we won't be able to serve as many agencies.
One of the questions, and I imagine you don't have this number before you right now, we know that the need is always great, the asking amount. Do you have any idea of what that was this past cycle, or even what we've received so far? What type ask would be from that other group at this point?
I don't have that with me, but I know it's on the website with the FY26 funding, and it would just be for the legacy agencies because we haven't gotten the non-legacy funding request yet.
Another question I had, the kind of related to the funding amounts. If we were to adopt this, we would be basically saying, correct me if I'm wrong, that we would be guaranteeing them funding for the 6 for 5 years, assuming they meet all the requirements they say they're going to meet. Are we also guaranteeing the level of that funding for that entire 5-year span?
Similar to now, kind of the 2-year funding cycle, nothing's guaranteed. It's based on the council-approved budget for that year. I would assume that we would just prorate it like we're doing now for the 2-year cycle.
And then I think currently, I think of this as a 3-step process, right? City staff, the commission, and then us, right? So at least as I've been on the council, that's what we've seen that. So we have like the city staff recommendations, HCDC recommendations, it comes to us, and even at each stage, it could change. Right, so I know even since I've been on council, we've done some things where we get the recommendation and we've tweaked it a little bit.
Yep.
Would that process be altered by this proposal?
The only difference, so council will always have the final say. The only difference would be that we're not asking commissioners to give in detailed scores and using that process. We're going to give them our recommendation, and they can do with that what they want. We're just not getting the participation from the commission, so that's why we changed that part of the process. But as far as going to starting with staff and then going to the commission and then final approval by council annually, we'll continue to do that.
So a little less paperwork for HCDC, but there's still an important step in the process where they'll deliberate and comment and decide, right?
Right. We still want their input, so we'll still bring it to them.
Do they still have, I'm so sorry, but
No,
it's
go ahead. That was my
directly
question. You're good.
on your coattails. Do they still have the same abilities as they've currently have and have in the past to alter scores? I mean, based on conversation and discussion, it's a horrible thing, I know from having been there. But in terms of them contributing to the process, they can reflect and have discussion and potentially make changes if they see fit before it comes to council.
Yep, and they
So
can do that now,
it
but
really
yes.
is still in that, there's multiple layers of people weighing in on this, correct?
Right, so yeah, they'll have any flexibility they want to make recommendations within the budget.
Keeping with that, did any commissioners actually respond for the request to comment after the quorum failure?
Yes, we had one that said they were supportive of the set-asides, and she also said she just wanted to make sure that the kind of report outs would come to the commission regularly, and so we confirmed that, you know, we would still bring those performance results to the commission.
Any other questions for staff?
I do have one more, I promise,
Okay.
and I've been clicking them off. So has there been any discussion of an actual percentage of the aid to agency budget been allotted for the non-competitive? I don't think that,
Like doing a certain percentage for direct and competitive. We haven't discussed that. We, you know, we assume that it would just be derived from this funding route, and that would make the most sense. And that kind of aligns with what we're doing now, so no major change there.
All right, thank you. Would anyone from the public like to address this topic? If you're in this room, please raise your hand so I can identify how many folks want to speak. If you're online and if you want to speak, please raise your virtual hand at this time. All right, and so if you can raise your hand high so that I can see everyone that want to speak. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10. So I see 10 people at this time. I'm going to ask you all to come up and give your name and the city you're from. We do have stickers in the back room that you can fill out and drop it in the basket. You don't have to peel it off. But if you don't use the stickers, which I highly recommend, you can sign your name in at the sign-in sheet. So I ask you to come forth, give your name and city you're from, and you'll have up to 3 minutes. Welcome.
Hi. I'm Alejandra Escobar. I work for Escucha Mi Voz. I'm an immigrant from Colombia and a resident of Iowa City. Iowa City's plan, City Steps 2030, fails to represent immigrant communities, overlooks the increasing concentration of poverty, racial and income segregation, and negative economic effects on communities due to the reduced spending. Instead of promoting forward-thinking, community-led service models, the draft plan, if approved, would reinforce existing power structures and sustain an outdated service approach that fails to serve all residents equitably. A lack of affordable housing increases housing instability, frequent moves, evictions, poor health outcomes, and limited access to quality education, among others. Without affordable housing, families have constrained opportunities to increase earnings, causing a slower growth of gross domestic product. We're committed to collaborating with the city to amend the plan. Thank you.
Thank you. And we're going to go online and welcome Will at this time. Please state your name and city you're from. And I also invite people just to gather in a line. And then did you write your name on the sheet? Yes. And again, there are stickers on the desk in the back that you can sign your name and then just drop it in the basket. You don't have to peel off the sticker. Welcome, Will.
Hi there, my name's Will Kapp. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. My name's Will Kapp. I'm the president of the board of the Immigrant Welcome Network of Johnson County. And I just want to thank Erica for the presentation that was addressing a lot of the questions that I brought up in my letter to all the counselors. And I just want to say out loud what I was saying in my letters to the counselors. I just would really like to see something on paper going forward that would identify what percentage of the money, even if it's a recommendation, that would go to the competitive side of the grants, as opposed to the direct side of the grants, just because I think there are things in your city steps specifically related to immigrant and refugee advocacy for housing, where other organizations in the community would be better equipped to handle those. So to know, for example, if you're only if the outlook is looking like $100,000 total, then that's a maximum of 5 agencies if it's a $20,000 minimum. Just having some idea of how much is going to be promised for those organizations going forward would be good, especially looking down the pipeline of the current administration and the state government. I don't believe that the funding opportunities are going to be quite as robust, so that city funding is really important. Thank you.
Thank you. And then, yep. Please state your name and city you're from.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Susan Chalot. I am here as chair of the Board of Directors of Trail of Johnson County. I'm here tonight to actually commend council and thank council and staff in particular for the very thorough job of putting together the City Steps plan. The data compiled for this document will be enormously useful not only to the city in identifying areas of greatest need, but to local nonprofit community that works alongside the city in assisting low-income residents. Trail of Johnson County, and our name stands for Tools and Resources for Active Independent Living, and describes our mission, which is to help older adults live more safely and comfortably in the places they call home. We believe Trail is the only independent nonprofit organization headquartered in Iowa City that is solely dedicated to providing essential services to older adults in their homes, whether in Iowa City or throughout Johnson County. Trail is nearing its 8th anniversary, and today we are serving about 250 members. Most of those individuals and households pay a modest monthly fee to access volunteer services, member events, and more. Among those 250 are 30 low-income supported members, most of whom reside in Iowa City, and most of whom pay no fee at all, thanks to generous gifts from the City of Iowa City, corporate sponsors, and other funders. When it comes to the challenges faced by low-income elderly described in the City Steps document, Trail knows these needs well. Our most requested volunteer service is transportation, often for rides to medical appointments, errands, or just the hair appointment. We're also well aware of the need for safety-related home improvements, such as the installation of grab bars or ramps that can help older adults age in place. But for Trail, perhaps the most important takeaway from the City Steps document is the report on how quickly the age 65-plus population is growing, which of course means growth in the numbers of low-income elderly as well. Like the city and its supply of low-income housing, Trail has a wait list of low-income individuals hoping to become supported members. Our ability to serve those individuals depends not only on external funding, but on the ability of our volunteers to keep up with growing demand. So our purpose here tonight, and I'm here with 2 other board members of Trail, is to first say thank you for the city's ongoing support to Trail through the Aid to Agencies program, and just as important, for shining a spotlight through the City Steps document on a population that is famously invisible, the low-income elderly among us. And lastly, we want to encourage the city, as well as our fellow nonprofits, to continue to find ways to support all older adults in Iowa City. It's a population that is growing large, in part because we are all growing older, too. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Welcome. Please state your name and city you're from.
Good evening. I'm Sharif with the Center for Work and Justice. I'd like to thank the City Council for having the opportunity to discuss the matter in here. As I said, I'm the Executive Director at the Center for Work and Justice. I'm here tonight to share my discontent with the City of Iowa City's 5-year consolidated plan as drafted. The Center for Work and Justice and our allied organizations stand in unity to request a 30-day pause on the City's Council vote on the plan. This will allow for more community and other local organizations to weigh in on the plan. To align the city's funding strategy with the feelings of the community members and organizations, we ask the Council to postpone discussion of this item. This plan, if approved, would allocate 95% of the annual aid to agency funding to 6 large local nonprofits, as just said here, through a non-competitive grants, leaving a small percent for local and small mid-sized organizations to compete for essential funding. Within the city staff funding recommendations letter to the Housing Community Development Commission, it is listed that each organization's financial capacity is taken into account when considering future funding. Under the plan's draft, this financial capacity consideration becomes a major hurdle for small and mid-sized organizations who would be competing over a small pool of funds. Indeed, this policy will limit our financial capacity and force us to remain small. This is a moment of time when immigrant, refugee residents face incredible and unprecedented challenges. It is imperative that the city understand the weight of the decision and recognize the context of our state in 2005 and beyond. Immigrant members who are getting ready to, we really understand how and where these people are, the immigrant communities who the legacy and aid to agency serves them. By losing these communities or by not connecting us, in essence, we are really weakening our connections with people and our ability to work with them. So we really appeal for the city council here just to postpone the decision on this until more input is given and until just like fair and further distribution of funds is granted for all of us to prosper. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, and I welcome people just to come on up, those that raise their hand to speak. Welcome. Please state your name and city you're from.
My name is Claire Lussard, and I'm from Iowa City. I'm a Catholic worker and an organizer with Escucha Mi Voz, and I'm here to ask you to guarantee a 50-50 split for the direct funding and the competitive funding, or delay your decision. We know that ethnic minorities face disproportionate issues with housing, regardless of income, and are often left out of housing solutions. There are many smaller and medium-sized organizations that are better suited to fill these needs because we are led by immigrants, and we have been working for many years to understand and address the needs of immigrant populations that we're grateful to have in Iowa City. If addressing these issues is a priority of the City Council, as stated in the Consolidated Plan, it is important that you make sure that you are committing adequate funding opportunities to those organizations that are suited to do the work the best. So again, I'm here to ask you to guarantee a 50-50 split for the direct and competitive funding or delay your decision. This is a 5-year plan, so what's the rush to address the needs with dignity for all? Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to ask the next speaker to please come to the aisle.
Dice, si vas a hablar, por favor, haces cola.
Welcome.
Hi, thank you. I'm Emily. I'm from Iowa City, and I with the Iowa City Catholic Worker and Escucha Mi Voz. We're going to be around. It'll be 9 years in July 1st. We've been here. Right now, currently, we're providing supportive housing for 45 individuals, immigrants and refugees in our community. And we're going to see that need increase as well as legal aid as we anticipate deportations and separations of families in the coming days. So our organizations are led by and deeply embedded within the immigrant and refugee community. These are communities that are disproportionately affected by housing problems. We do appreciate the city's ongoing dedication to addressing housing problems and its recognition of the racial and ethnic disparities that affect our communities. But we can't support this plan. Throughout the process, we were active with the city. I think we turned out over 200 people. Escucha mi voz. There's a clear need to find solutions for housing for immigrants and refugees. And so we don't feel like this plan adequately addresses that. And we would like to request a larger allocation for medium-sized organizations. We do feel and believe that all organizations in this community are important, and they all have value. But because we identified these needs in the plan, we would like to point the solutions toward those as well, and just ask, this is a different perspective that we're looking at this by. I do think at the very least the city can extend the public comment period to 30 days. December 20th is a really hard time of year for people to participate in such an important plan. People are busy with the holidays, on vacation. So it makes it really, really hard. I also want to say that we can't just focus on income. We also have to focus on other things. And I have some time left, so I'm just going to pick a little bit. Our organizations are committed to collaborating with the city and the city staff to amend the plan, but there are some changes that need to be taken so that we can prioritize not just income, but we can ensure that all residents, particularly those most affected, receive equitable support and justice and housing policy. Thank you.
Thank you. Buenos dias, or buenos tarde, I don't know. Good evening. Yes.
Hola, mi nombre es Ninosca Campos y soy miembro de Escucha Mi Voz.
Hi, my name is Ninosca Campos and I am a member of Escucha Mi Voz.
Estoy aquí esta tarde delante de ustedes porque sabemos que ustedes pueden crear un camino para viviendas accesibles para la comunidad inmigrante.
I'm here standing in front of you today because I know that you can help provide a road to accessible housing for the community.
Porque es inaccesible, aunque yo creo que ustedes no se dan cuenta, yo vivo en las trailas de la Scott Boulevard en la Modern Minor.
Because housing right now is not accessible, although you may not know it. I live in the trailers on Scott Boulevard.
En la Modern Minor.
Modern Manor.
Sabemos que cada 1 de diciembre a estos lotes de traila les suben $50 todos los años.
Every year they up the price of the trailers $50 a month in December.
Pero el punto es que desde el día domingo no tenemos agua y ahora es día martes y estamos sin agua.
But as of Sunday we don't have water and it's now Tuesday and there's still no water.
¿Cómo es posible que al salir de esta reunión yo me tengo que ir a bañar donde mis amistades y para hacer las necesidades tenemos que ir a las gasolineras porque no tenemos agua en este momento?
How is it possible that when I leave this meeting today, I'm going to have to go to my friend's house to take a shower, we'll have to go to the gas station to go to the bathroom and other hygiene necessities because we don't have water?
Y si uno va a preguntar, ellos nunca tienen una respuesta concreta que digan de que supuestamente dicen que el 22 de enero va a venir el agua, que es el día de mañana, eso esperamos.
And so every time we go to ask them, they don't have an answer. They say supposedly the water is going to be back the 22nd of January, which is tomorrow, and that's what we're hoping for.
¿Y cómo es posible que si nosotros, yo pago, ahorita viene el año de las taxas, yo pago mis taxas federales, estatales, y cómo es posible que en vez de vivir mejor, voy viviendo peor?
And how is it possible that I am going to soon pay my taxes at the federal level and the state level, and instead of living better, I'm living worse?
Entonces no se puede, vamos atrás como el cangrejo. Vamos atrás como el cangrejo.
So how is it possible? We're walking backwards like a crab.
Sí, entonces necesitamos que ustedes, ¿verdad?, pues den una solución para el tema de las viviendas accesibles, porque la verdad tal vez ustedes no pueden ver todo lo que pasa en el entorno alrededor.
And so we really need a solution from you all because it's possible that you don't really see what is happening in, around us.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. My name is David Goodner. I'm Executive Director of Escucha-Mi-Voz, Iowa. This is basically a get big or get out plan. Far from being misinformation, I think the city's slides that we saw here clearly lay out what the problem is. The big six nonprofits are already taking 53% of this aid. They're taking most of the CBDG and home money. They're increasingly taking the housing vouchers administered by the Iowa City Housing Authority, right now over $500,000 a year. Immigrant and refugee groups in the plan clearly stated that ethnic and racial minorities are disproportionately impacted by housing problems, yet the funding solutions are doing nothing to actually address that. In fact, they're just maintaining the status quo that has gotten us into this problem in the first place. We asked for a 30-day extension on the public comment period for several reasons. One, the plan was released on December 20th when offices were closed. School was out, the university was closed, families were on vacation. Many nonprofits didn't even come back until January 6th. So you've had like a 14-day public input period rather than the 30 days that you promised. There's also many details in this plan that have not been thoroughly vetted by the public yet. For example, one interesting fact in the plan stated that Hispanics receive less than 4% of housing vouchers in the city. Yet again, there's no remedy for that, for how the city's going to fix that problem to make sure that housing vouchers are being distributed equitably among all city residents and not being concentrated in just one or two places, which is increasingly happening. There's also no guarantee without a funding mechanism locked into the consolidated plan that the big six nonprofits won't continue to advocate and lobby for more and more percentages of the aid to agencies budget. It's 53% now, but it's going to continue to go up. We've seen in the past that the city tends to fund like 1% or maybe 2% of an agency's budget. The larger you are, the easier it is to grow your budget exponentially. And we've seen some of the largest nonprofits since the pandemic go from a $1 million a year budget to a $8 million a year budget. They're pocketing cash reserves of millions of dollars every year. And again, there's no guarantee that as their budgets continue to grow and continue to increase, that they won't continue to ask for more and more of the aid agencies' funding. This isn't just going to impact us, it's going to impact many other nonprofits in town. Your slides clearly stated that there'll be less funding for everybody else. In addition, there's, the city stated that you were meeting federal guidelines. Single audits are not required by the federal government unless you spend over $750,000 in 1 year. So I'm completely flabbergasted why the city would mandate that type of single audit for organizations that are receiving just a few $1,000s in funding. In conclusion, please either guarantee a 50-50 split in this aid or extend the public comment period by another 30 days so the public can really make their views known. Thank you.
Thank you. And if I'm not mistaken, this is our last speaker. Is there anyone else that raised their hand? All right, okay, so we have just two more speakers. All right. Welcome. Please state your name and city you're from.
Thank you. Buenas noches. Primero que nada, agradecerle a nuestro Dios Jehová, que Él es el que nos mantiene aquí. Y me acerco, soy un humilde colombiano, me llamo Cristian Gómez.
Hello, good night. First of all, I want to thank God for having all of us here. My name is Christian Gomez. I'm from Colombia.
Yeah. Me acerco hacia ustedes en esta noche con mucho respeto y humildad, damas y caballeros. Quiero decirle que me acerco también porque ya que la señora Emily en sus AO en su casa me ha brindado ese apoyo.
Ladies and gentlemen, I come to you tonight with respect and humility. I am staying in the house of Iowa City Catholic Worker in Emily's house.
Y pues siento de todo corazón que ese apoyo ha sido muy bueno y por eso le pido de corazón si ese apoyo se vea un poquito más, porque necesitamos, no solamente hoy quiero hablar por mí, sino por muchos compañeros.
With all my heart, I tell you that this help that I've received in that house has been very helpful, and I would like to see it become even more, not just speaking for myself, but for the other people in that house as well.
Yeah. Y también entendiendo algo muy valioso, el respeto, el compañerismo, el apoyo mutuo, y ya que cuando llegamos a estas etapas que entra el frío, el trabajo mengua, se escasea y aún así el apoyo es bueno y pues quiero decirle que gracias, me siento contento, feliz de estar aquí.
There we receive kind of like mutual help, respect amongst us, and I want to tell you all that this help is very good that we receive.
Hoy me despido, estoy aquí, como le dije, contento, gracias, me siento feliz y bueno, solo le pido de todo corazón que nos sigan apoyando, que nosotros sí venimos a este país a dar lo mejor y hacer lo bueno, cumplir con las normas de aquí de Norteamérica. Thank you.
In closing, I would just like to say that I've been very happy with the help that I have received here. We come to this country to continue on in a better life and to give it our all and to follow the laws here. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And Charlie is our last speaker on this item. Welcome. Please state your name and city you're from.
Thank you, Mayor T. Charlie Eastham, 953 Canton Street in Iowa City. I'm also the treasurer of the Center for Worker Justice and a member of the board of the center and have been so since its inception several years ago. I just want to emphasize, and I'm also a member of the school board, so I want to talk a little bit about my experience as a school board member. I'm certainly not representing the school board. This is a great opportunity, I believe, for us as a community and us as a council to make an adjustment to how we're proposing to use our public funds to help people who need help within the community. One of the things that we don't have with the aid agencies process right now is a clear commitment to use funds that that help people who are Latinx as well as people of color. In part because we don't have, as other people have said, we don't quite have the organizational requirement that organizations applying for aid agencies funds have boards that are by majority people of color, immigrants, and other low-wage folks in the community, and that organizations we don't look to see whether or not they're being led by folks that are most in need, greatly in need of the assistance that we want to provide. So let's do that first. Let's take the 30 days that have been asked of us, 30 days pause and work on that issue, and then see where we can go from there on some of the other issues. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. Well, thanks to everyone that came before and shared with the council. At this point, we're going to move to council discussion.
I'll just jump in. Oh, okay. I think the two elements that kind of give me pause about the new way in which we're looking at this is the not knowing how many non-direct, like how many of the competitive grants we, organizations like could be granted, and also the durational existence of the entities for those who are eligible to receive direct funding. Those are the two things that I am most concerned about, and I think I would just ask that we entertain having some clearer indication of the proportion of funds for the direct support and the competitive granting process, and then also either reducing or eliminating the durational existence requirement. I think if, just thinking about how rapidly things are changing in our society and in the world, I'm just worried that if organizations are able to meet those other administrative benchmarks that I think relate more to the capacity for receiving the heavily strings attached dollars. I think if they can meet those, it shouldn't really matter to us how long they've been in existence, and that if an organization is able to spin up more quickly and respond to needs more flexibly, that we should accommodate that. So those would be my two requests of my colleagues as far as potential changes to the plan.
Regarding the durational requirements, I agree with you. If you can meet the requirements of that compliance, of federal compliance, I feel like that's a threshold enough. It doesn't seem like that's going to change probably the recommendation for who those 6 organizations are, but
But it could in the future, yeah.
But in the future, it could. One thing that a theme that I'm also curious about, and I don't know how to have this in a public conversation, would be the two concurring themes of organizations that serve immigrants versus organizations that are led by immigrants. Regarding those that serve immigrants, you can look at that group of 6 up there that are getting direct funding, and I believe all of them serve immigrants well, but we probably don't have great data on that, and I don't know that I'm scared to say if we want data on that in this political climate. I hate to say that out loud, but that is a thing that I just don't want to make anybody a target. But I know that those organizations serve the populations that we do care about and are in the plan, but we don't necessarily have the data to support that. As far as immigrant-led, I don't know how we would qualify that in this consolidated plan, but I absolutely can imagine that being part of the decision-making process for fund allocation.
I have a quick just question of clarification. This consolidated plan is a requirement of HUD, correct?
Correct.
So that sort of lands me, it's a very difficult environment that we're entering into, and I have concerns about having something in writing going to the federal government about what our intentions are. I'll just be that blunt. I recognize that that also means that there's not a contract of sorts, but this concerns me deeply to have something written down that goes for accountability. I'm not sure what to do about that other than to commit to put forth that this council is deeply committed, and yet, and I am one of, I do not know that my counselors share that. And I recognize that that is very shaky ground to hear one person say, oh, trust me, right? I do understand that everyone in the audience is probably going, that's not good enough. I have a deep commitment to serving every member in this community, particularly those who are invisible, marginalized, ignored. And I will do my utmost as a counselor to help with that. But this administration is not kidding around.
That's actually one of the reasons why I asked some of the questions I asked in the earlier stage, talking about the 3 steps of the process, the approval process. And one of the things, I want to thank the people that are here tonight and the groups they represent. Before I was on council and since I've been on council, obviously mobilize and get their voices heard. I mean, and so the fact that we aren't removing those opportunities from the process, and the fact that we as a council have demonstrated that even when it gets to us, we still aren't afraid to change things if we think that, nope, we think this actually does this does need to benefit an organization. We think that, you know, we tweak things, right? And we tweak things because we hear from some of the same people that are sitting here tonight. We've heard from in the past, and we've worked with that. And I absolutely echo the concerns that have been said. I think a lot about audience and the fact that how comforting it would be to hear a little bit more direct language for the audience that's here tonight. And I deeply would love to be able to do that. But I also know that that's not the only audience that will read the documents. And same thing. I would rather have the people in this room be a little bit upset with me if I didn't put that in there, the bold language, than have the people in the room suddenly get targeted because I wanted your approval for putting in extremely bold language in terms of these requirements. I think that kind of captures, but hopefully you can see there's stuff in this document. And that, again, you kind of know who we are, and you know how we've supported organizations, including those in this room in the past. So that's just my little bit on that. Getting more specifically to Councilor Burgess's, I also don't have any sort of particular strong feeling about the length of time. If we want, 15-year, 10-year, 5-year, or none at all, I don't have any strong feelings on that. What was the other thing you had mentioned?
Essentially, that there would be proportionality.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any, I think right now, the existing funding split ends up being almost 50-50 anyway, right? 53-47, is that, I think somebody mentioned that, is that?
Of the current round.
I don't have that slide in front of me, and I didn't do the math when it was up there, but is that about what that split's at? So, I mean, I don't have I don't know if that tie, if we want that kind of tie on it, but I also don't have a real problem with that. So I don't, so I think both of those things I'm open to, or and would be at least so far supportive of.
And just to add, and I realize I've hopped in a couple of times, but I think that would actually, putting it in terms of proportion, 6 agencies versus 19, that is, that's quite a lot of difference between the amount funded for the agencies. And so I do think that it makes sense to have some kind of sort of guardrails or something to have that split of proportionality so that that sort of amassing, even as need continues to grow, that we don't create our own industrial nonprofit complex. So I would not have a problem with looking at some language that would make sure that there was a little bit more equity.
Sort of lock in what we're already doing so it doesn't change dramatically.
Correct.
Yeah.
That one, yeah.
I would say something somebody else had mentioned in the comments about looking at the difference in needs for funding for mid-sized agencies. And I think that actually is still a thing that's in part of this as through part of the process. Like, it increases that minimum, but that doesn't set a maximum, right? So as cases are made for different services provided, and that's balanced out. And of course, as everybody in this room knows, they've been through the process, as it gets through like HCDC, they'll take a look at what the request is, and then they'll navigate and move things up and down, and they'll come to us for the same kind of a final process before approval. So, I mean, I think that's a good point. Like that, mid-sized agencies also have their own sort of funding needs that are a little different from maybe an emerging agency, but I think this accounts for that.
So, Mayor, can I just repeat what I said when you were out of the room?
I was actually going to ask that you did, please.
I was just asking you all to consider 2 changes. One would be to eliminate the durational requirement for those agencies to be eligible to receive the direct funding.
Oh, no, 15-year.
correct.
Got it.
And then to have some established proportionality in terms of the amount of the overall pot that would go for those direct grants, or, the direct support versus the competitive grants. And I think, two kind of reasons behind that. One is just things are changing very, very quickly, and I share some concerns about kind of like, reinforcing the status quo in terms of those that have the capacity to ask in the right way, continuing and not allowing those that maybe are newer to step into the space. And also just, having the expectation out there for those organizations who are entering the competitive round to have an understanding of if there's a minimum of 20,000 as a grant, then, at least X number should receive. I mean, knowing that it's not tied to a dollar amount, but to be tied to a percentage. But in a given funding round, then organizations would know what that would mean.
Yeah.
One other thing about, I'll say one thing, then Mr. Mayor's turn. One other thing about this I did like, and we haven't really heard from agencies that would have been considered emerging, but for emerging agencies that currently have to go through this every year, on top of doing all the work of developing a new agency, this would put them into a 2-year cycle. So I would have to think that would be a benefit for a new agency that's trying to get off the ground, that they're not getting on that annual treadmill. Now, they may, obviously you still have to get the grant, but if you get it, I think that would be, if it were me and I was doing that, to have to only do that every other year instead of every year would be an administrative boost. So just that kind of a point. Sorry, I cut you off.
No. So I think, honestly, some of my comments really do address the second part of the second question that you had. So the first one, I think that's a non-issue for me to remove I would be supportive of removing the 15-year requirement. The second, when I think about what's been happening in our community as far as, of course, the increased needs that we continue to see on every hand, from housing to food insecurity, and the list goes on and on. And yes, there is the new administration coming on that causes us all some beyond heartburn as to what we'll be dealing with in the future, and how do we ensure that we, as I heard, not saying too much to highlight and cause our community more challenges. And so I'm going to leave that at that. What I've seen, at least with some agencies, so we know the need is increasing. And we've seen this in some of the 8 business agencies where they consolidated, collaborated. I'll just be very frank. I think there needs to be some consolidation and some collaboration between some of the agencies, because there will be greater strength, I believe, coming together to really provide the services that I see the work, I commend the work. You all are doing impactful things, but I do see that as a great opportunity and a greater outcome and a greater impact on our community and the residents that people are here advocating for today. I'm also reminded, when we're talking about the funds that are going to, current legacy, non-legacy, and now we're going to be going to this potentially going to this direct and competitive. I'm reminded a few years ago what we had realized or were learned that people hadn't gotten kind of increases from the city with their request. While services were still increasing, our funding was kind of stagnant. When I look at, we have a lot of not-for-profit organizations in our community. I don't even know the number. I think in 2018, I heard it was 500. I think in Johnson County is around 1,000 now. So there's a lot. And as the need, when just that number in itself lets me know that there are some great people doing a lot of great work But I'll say it again, if there were some agencies finding ways to consolidate and to really work together, I think the impact will be great. When it comes down to the, percentage of 50-50 split, I really don't have an issue with numbers, but I don't know if in this moment I can give it because I think that if we're talking 6 and these, all the people that are before us right now, you all do great work. It goes without saying. The ones that are selected of the 6, they also do great work. There is no, how some people say my favorite and that there is no favoritism here. I think you all really do great work. There is some benefit to having more impact because you can give a little small grants here and there. And then, at the end of it all, we want to make sure that individual lives are impacted. And I think that's also a part of what the city staff has done is said, hey, we really want to make sure that lives are impacted at the end of the day. While I'm not prepared to, in this moment, to talk about the correct percentage, because I feel it's a budgetary item, where we've had in the past HCDC come to us and say, hey, we want to fund everyone, right? As an example, and the council in that moment did, in that moment. With things coming down the pike that we don't certainly know about, I mean, I would love to say, you know what, no matter what, there will be $1 million that we're going to set aside for this program. I think the conversations that this council needs to have goes far beyond a consolidated plan. It is really a budgetary item. And so while I hear the intent, I hear the ask, I think there is more work for us to do that it really is beyond this plan when it comes down to the numbers. So I appreciate folks coming and sharing. I think there's going to be some continued conversations on this as we move forward. But I don't know that having that percentage at this moment for me, unless there was something that, someone really, made that comparison of how this could be a great thing. I don't know that is what I would support at this time.
May I ask, Mayor, because you said at one point you were talking about money, about dollars, right? And then at the very end you said percentages. And the way that we were talking was about, proportionality of, that the 6 agencies, and maybe it is for simplicity's sake, it was a 50-50, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be that or what have you, but it was proportionality because some of this actually is contingent on how much, I'm just going to leave it at that. I wasn't sure if you were talking
if you're saying a
dollar
minimum,
amount,
if you're
or-
talking a minimum of 50-50 split, I can probably, buy into that, but
Right.
I'm not
Yeah,
exactly
we weren't
sure.
talking about dollars. We were just talking about allotment of proportion.
I'm not even exactly sure if a 50-50 split with the majority going to the 6 agencies, is appropriate. But if you're saying if the minimum is a 50-50 split, I think I can support that in this moment.
I think, Mr. Mayor, and this might have been part of when you're out of the room where that number at least where it kind of came from, is looking at sort of the way, like if you took those agencies now and you forgot about direct funded and everything else, just looked at as it is now with legacy and whatever, those 6 right now are at like 53%.
Sure.
So it's kind of coming from like what we're doing anyway under the current system, so it'd be consistent. So if we were to say 50-50, it'd be consistent. And I think that would also speak to maybe, and again, not knowing what so if I'm saying something you heard, I apologize.
No.
But the concern about, okay, we don't want this to be that the big fish gobble up everything for the little fish. I know, some people were worried that, they're going to get 95% versus 5%. Of course, that's not at all what's being proposed, but maybe putting that sort of as it's going to stay at this base. There's not going to be any drastic change that's going to all of a sudden suck up all the oxygen in the room from a support standpoint. At least that's my take, and I don't know if that's helpful or not. But
No, it is helpful, and I think if for the sake of folks, colleagues, and really the community that is advocating for the needs of people in our community, the need is great. If 50-50 is going to bring some comfort in this document, I can support that. I'll be very frank. I don't think the 50-50 is enough on the competitive side because the needs are so great. But I can go with 50-50 if that will bring people comfort. I can go with that.
The 50-50 split wouldn't be something, that's again a budgetary choice that we make, or is it something that we're proposing actually adding to the language of this? Because the STEPS 2030 plan on page 91 specifically indicates the 20-year minimum thing, and I'm prepared to make an amendment to say that let's just remove that and just say an organization that proves that they are established and able to provide services. That's good enough. I don't know that there's a place in here to actually insert rules about divisions of what we're going to do each budgetary year. Am I missing that in the consolidated plan?
No, the plan does not get into budgetary allocations right now. But maybe I'd invite Erica back up if you're okay, because she's going to be able to walk you through this better than I can.
Yeah, exactly what Jeff said. We don't have any budgetary provisions in the plan. We could add that. We could also, when we come back with our amendment, we could add something at that point. Our action plan amendment will be in front of council this spring. As I mentioned, that's an amendment to the city steps, so there's opportunity there to make a change.
that sort of thing's not prohibited under CDBG guidelines, or if we wanted to do that, that's a...
No, but you're putting local regulations into a federal report or federal plan. So as far as the HUD plan, I guess it's not a necessary aspect of, it's not really within the realm of the plan.
So I'm going to follow up with that logic there. Let's say perhaps we do in future years decide that the large agencies don't need as much and we'd rather designate more because we have put in this document, this federal document that we have allocated 50-50, we would then be obliged to split it 50-50?
Right, we'd have to amend the plan in order for you to.
Then I do not want it in the document.
But we can amend the plan. That's
Yes,
okay to do once it's been
kind of
accepted.
similar to this. It's a 30-day public comment. It will go to the commission, go to council. So it's a process.
So we're not locked in for 5 years, is
Right.
that correct? Is that correct?
There is an amendment process.
What would be the mechanism for, like, so if staff is making the recommendation to the commission as to what the awards would be in a given year, and then the commission is providing feedback and the process that you laid out specific to aid to agencies, what's the mechanism for kind of providing that policy or, assurance that that's what, if it was the will of the council to say, we want to make sure that the competitive pool is 50% or at least 50%, however,
The aid agencies.
you have the aid agencies, like what would be the mechanism for providing that? If I agree with Councilor Moe, like putting it in this specific document maybe doesn't make sense.
And the idea of having an amendment in theory sounds fine, but that's staff time and whatever. So.
I mean, we could have a separate policy approved by council. That would be an option. It could be like maybe through the budget process as well.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. The council has frequently amended the rules for the aid to agency application process, and I probably provided some informal guidelines just through IP memos and work session discussions. I would think that that's completely fine to do outside of the plan. I don't think that there would be any issues with that. So if you wanted to, for instance, direct staff to develop a memo and send that to HCDC and say council would like to see a 50-50 split or approximately 50-50, whatever that works out. We could bring that back to you informally, and I agree you wouldn't be encumbering yourself or future councils with something hard in the plan that may not be adaptable in the moment when you need it in the future.
I would support that mechanism that you just outlined if everyone else does.
Would that be something could be brought to us next meeting for like an approval, or can we just do that? Okay.
We could do it next meeting.
I really think it's a budgetary item.
Yeah. It's a political choice.
I do have one comment that it has, does not have to do with aid agencies, but it has to do with the rest of city steps. I really, really commend the way in which there were so many deliberate opportunities for feedback and input, and thank you for getting so many people to come and to comment. Escuche mi voz. I actually noted in one of the slides, there was that picture, and it had all of the very discernible blue stickers for what the priorities were, and that was a lot of stickers, and thank you. I mean, truly, this is what, we can sit up here and staff too can say, we know what we think is good, but to get that actually has shaped this. And I was very, very struck by as well the way in which staff considered very probably difficult, but also very strategically about how can we make the best impact with the dollars that we have for home and CDBG, and to win a win, instead of saying that list of we do 7 to 10 of these things, looking at other communities and tying that into what the feedback was from the community, to look at tenant-based rent assistance and down payment assistance. I just feel like this is the kind of, to go back to what you have embarked on this past year, along with Tracy and Jeff on data-driven, right? I mean, data comes in all different forms. And so the input from the community is absolutely important data, and I feel like it shaped some difficult decisions, but also some that I think are going to end up helping in a bigger way. So thank you both for contributing to the input so that it can help shape this, and then also that the City Steps document itself is really, really quite marvelous and has some really strong improvements, I think.
So I just want to summarize what I think I heard for those that are present. So it sounds like soon we'll take a vote on the plan as it is written before us, but we've tasked staff, I believe the majority of us, all of us, I think, want staff to, at our next meeting, bring us something that will essentially formalize the process of a 50-50 split of funding in the aid to agencies. And so staff will be bringing that before us next meeting. And I think that we'll be going from there, and we're going to have a vote here very soon, unless someone has more comments.
Do we need to have a vote on the amendment for Councilor Burgess's thing about removing the, I think it's 15 or whatever, the year requirement? If you wanted to make that, I would second it.
Do you want to just say remove it completely, or just say has a track record of performing delivery?
I think there has to be some qualification there.
I trust staff to make that judgment. And
You could just strike it. The other criteria is going to be solid enough.
Okay.
If you feel more comfortable with a 5-year or 10-year, that's fine, but
No.
the point's well taken, and as long as we have those other performance objectives in there, staff is comfortable.
And in the draft plan, that's on page 91, I would move to strike the bullet that says, years in existence, agency has been operating for no less than 15 years in its current capacity.
So moved by Burgess,
Second that.
seconded by Mo. And just a voice.
That would be a voice vote, yeah.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. All right, so we are back to the, so with the amendment, we're going to vote on the consolidated plan for 2026-2030 as amended. Roll call, please.
Burgess.
Yes.
Harmson.
Yes.
Moe.
Yes.
Teague.
Yes.
Alter.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Could I get a motion to accept correspondence?
So moved. Mo?
Second, Burgess.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Mayor, just to be transparent, so tomorrow HCD is reviewing the staff scoring for the aid to agencies program. I'm going to just have staff recap this conversation with HCD, so it'll be reflected probably in some recommendations that would come to you later. We'll still put it in writing and get it out, but the timing doesn't quite align, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
All right. All right, we are at item number 10. This is council appointments. We have the Housing and Community Development Commission, HCDC. Could I get we're going to have the discussion. and
I really
then-
would like to appoint, I think Amos, A-M-O-S.
Amos?
Amos Quiche?
Yeah, Amos, because he served at the TRC for only 9 months. And so if we can give him a chance to serve in another commission. Normally, we will serve for 1 year, 2 years or 3 years. He was only 3 months.
I agree with Amos Quiche.
Any other nominations or that we want to put forth? Any other names?
I don't know if it's just worth a mention. I think there was one person that has done one term, Caleb.
Chair?
Yeah. It just, I mean, I know
Yeah,
we
done
don't like to
full
have
term.
somebody more than just one full term, no, not
Yeah.
two. So, I mean, just throwing that out there.
Yeah, because I think last time was Becky Reader. She did only 1 full term, and we choose somebody else.
I thought all 4 were strong. I would be okay with Amos as well. I certainly remember him from when he came up here. I believe he actually came here to
Yes.
talk about wanting to be on the TRC and what
Mm-hmm.
it meant to him. So he's very engaged, and that is certainly something that this commission needs.
Yep. And also, just talking about this commission, have the city council reach out to the people who are normal, not the city council, the city staff. Because I see like there is many absence, so I think maybe people availability has changed. If we can reach out to them and ask them, because this is really important commission, and we can say, hey, maybe your availability has been changed, and
Can you actually outline the process for, like, do we have any procedures for if you've missed so many, you get a warning, and then with the process of removal? Can you just lay that out for all of us?
Sure. For city boards and commissions, many, maybe all of them have bylaws. Many of those bylaws speak to attendance issues. Typically, if attendance becomes an issue, the chair of the board or commission will privately speak to the member and say, hey, do you still think it's in your best interest and the city's best interest to stay on, or maybe you're busy and you'd like someone else to have a chance to serve? And oftentimes that results in a voluntary resignation of the member. Otherwise, there is a removal process. It typically requires a hearing and council action, and so that's less pleasant.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
there's a process.
I think it's better to reach out to them the way that you guys doing
Absolutely.
it.
Absolutely.
Yes. So.
Does the chairperson need nudging from the council to make those phone calls, or is
Well,
it?
if I understand it, the chairperson is outgoing and you folks just
Just voted him out?
Or we're just about to, yeah.
Staff is making those contacts.
Yeah, the
Okay,
staff is
thank you.
making the.
All right.
A motion to.
So I only heard of really one motion. Okay? Well, only one name came forth.
Yes, yeah.
So if hearing no other individuals, could I get a motion to appoint Amos Quiche
I move.
to the HCDC Commission?
Moved by me, Ms. Saleh.
Second?
Moved by Moved by Salas, seconded by Burgess. Way to work it out. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Moving on to 11, announcements of vacancies previous. 11A, Airport Zoning Board of Commission, one vacancy to fill a 5-year term. Airport Zoning Commission, one vacancy to fill a 6-year term. Board of Appeals HVAC Professional, one vacancy to fill an unexpired term. Historic Preservation Jefferson Street, one vacancy to fill a 3-year term. Historic Preservation Woodlawn Avenue, one vacancy to fill an unexpired term plus a 3-year term. Vacancies will remain open until filled. Item number 12 is City Council information.
Promise I won't go on because we're getting late, but I did go to an amazing conference last week, the Mayor's Innovation Project, and 2 things bubbled to the top. Well, 3, but 2 that I'll mention here. One is that the conference works with mayors coming and council people talking about the things that are going on in their cities, and they do a great job of the conference organizers of putting panels together from disparate cities, strong mayors, small, mid cities, big cities, to talk about solutioning that they've done on particular issues. And one of the things that was incredible was to see how much we are already doing that is being highlighted by other cities. And not just, oh, we're doing that one thing, but on a panel I was able to say, oh my God, in terms of talking about community wealth building, we're doing this, and this, right? And it all comes under that. So it is something, it truly is a testament to the work that the city does, and that was amazing. The other thing that was incredible is that on the tail of talking about community engagement, both through the charter and as Mayor Pro Tem has talked about, as all of we have at points about engaging the community where they are and ways to do that. There are a couple of really good ideas that I'm coming back with about kind of like civic academies. And there's one mayor in particular who talked about it, doing it very specifically and intentionally with the immigrant community, so that then there could be this sort of full network of knowing your rights, knowing what the city does, who you can go to for help, and creating a really good network. So it's very exciting to come back from that conference as well. So I could talk for hours, but I won't. You're welcome.
I guess I'll just follow that up, Counselor, with, today is it's an interesting political moment, right? Yesterday and today. And I think it's really, really energizing and empowering to be able to lead with you all in this moment. And I was talking with another elected colleague recently about kind of what this moment might mean for us. And I said, I'm more hopeful than I've been in a long time. And it really directly relates to, Mayor, what you were saying about collaboration, and that, we are coming together and finding ways to work together in, having lived in this community my whole life, in ways that I don't think we have before. And hearing the interest from, former Mayor Ballmer, hearing about that kind of civic engagement and what still holds true 50 years later when we are faced with such a different political moment, and just knowing that on this council, I think we all work really well together. We have a lot of mutual respect, and we will work with anyone. We will hear anyone. We will entertain all kinds of creative solutions, and that our staff and our executive supports all of that, carries out our strategic plan, doesn't waver in their commitment to our shared values. I really am encouraged. It's terrifying and just, abhorrent, some of the things that are already happening, but I believe that locally we will continue to make a difference and to hold each other and protect each other and care for each other, and I'm just grateful to have that chance with all of you.
Kind of along those lines, and I just saw former Supervisor Royce-Ann Porter out in the hallway, but I was going to give a shout out to her and Black Voices Project for the wonderful Martin Luther King Jr. observance, and thank you to the mayor who spoke at that. It was the perfect place to be yesterday at that exact time. And so thank you. It was a beautiful, beautiful event, and very lucky to be in a community where that's a thing that people could go to. So.
Yeah, I couldn't make it yesterday because I was listening to the federal level integration. So anyway, it was very bad for most of the immigrants, I think. Today we are hearing a lot of things going on in town. So I hope will give us the chance to make our local, if we cannot change the federal level, as Council Berger said, we need to be more than unite. Like, we need to unite more than ever during this tough time. And I hope, like, also the government's level, whether the county or the city, school, and everything, I hope they support as much as they can the immigrants in the community by providing education, by helping whatever, like, I don't know, any way that we can, because those are people who live in our community and the makeup of the, like, really, especially the immigrants who are adding, like, really good, they are a good addition to our community. And I hope we can really do something about their needs in this town. Yeah.
Lots going on in our community, and all I can say is we will get through it together. All right, we're going to move on to the next item, which is item number 13, report from our city staff, city manager's office,
Nothing tonight.
city attorney office.
Speaking of getting it through it together, a shout out to many of the city staff who were met with rather frosty temperatures in City Hall today, including in the 50s. It's my understanding city manager was met with the temperatures in the 40s yesterday when he popped into the office. So we got through it together.
Yes. All right. City clerk. All right. Item number 14, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Alter, seconded by Saleh. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned.